Jack Nicholls, and welcome to
Who's going to break 86th world title?
Oh, he's done it! And look at these two go! Ewan is going to do it! His first victory!
The World Championship is done.
What a race it's been!
Hello everybody and welcome to Singapore for round 4 of the Formula SimRacing World Championship in 2024. It's been half a decade since we visited the Marina Bay Street Circuit here in Singapore, but it's time to go racing here again. Back then, 5 years ago, Ewan, although only finished 6th place here on this particular location, went on to win his first ever World Championship. This time round, though, he's chasing his 5th, and there's plenty of drivers around him willing to try and take that one off him as well, in one of the most close and unpredictable starts to a World Championship season we've seen for quite some time. My name is Ewan. I'll be alongside Cam Rodger again for round 4 of the Championship, and Cam, it's a different look to the Marina Bay Street Circuit than what we had when we visited last in 2019. Yep, and we'll be talking to a man who's got plenty of experience with those DNFs, as we know. Anyway, sorry. It's round 4 of the championship here in the middle of April. We haven't got very long to go until that finale at Japan at the start of August. It's a very compressed season, all in a few months. For 2024, we'll be getting to the halfway mark in just 2 weeks' time. And it looks like it's not going to be a very spaced out, or doesn't look like there's going to be a favourite for the championship anyway at the halfway mark. We've got 3 rounds down, but 3 different winners and 5 drivers separated by just 8 points. It's Yannick Bock and Manuel Biancalilla who are tied at the top of the standings, and Jake Dennehan, who's not racing today. Jan Grankvist and Noah McGorgy are also in there with last time round's winner, Jone Simoncic, in 6th place. Then it's Dennis Jordan, who's the first of the Ferraris, ahead of Jonas Brakshock, Michi Hoyer, then his teammate Alex Siebel to round out the top 10. The change in there, Cam, is the switching of positions between Yannick Bock and Manuel Biancalilla, who got a 1-place penalty post-race from the German Grand Prix.
Yeah, he certainly did. That was basically it wasn't for one incident, it's for 2. So he got an infraction for each of those 2 times, if you remember, especially on the final lap, but also earlier on in the race, he sort of pushed Yannick Bock wide at the hairpin. Both of those he got an infraction for, and 2 infractions means you get a 1-position penalty. So that has left it tied between the very driver of Yannick Bock. So certainly interesting and ever close behind. So you can't really read too much into it. We've still got the likes of Simoncic down in 6th, Jordan down in 7th place as well. We know they're going to come up, at least from what history says, them being up towards the top of the championships. Even Alex Siebel, multiple-time runner-up in this championship as well, so still plenty to play for.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just wonder what the absence of Jake Dennehan is going to do to the standings as well. He's on 47 at the moment. At very worst, he could be 29 points off the championship lead already with only 6 rounds to go in the season if things go as a worst case scenario here this time around. And he's only finished on the podium twice in the second half of the season. That both came last time round, and they were both second places. Well, I suppose he could have won either of those races, especially the Japanese Grand Prix in that battle with Jone Simoncic. But I just wonder what this does for momentum, more than actual points lost today, which I think he won't be losing any sleep over. For me, it's about momentum. Just how much is Jake Dennehan going to lose by his absence, basically, here today at the Singapore Grand Prix?
Yeah, it's going to be a tough one. to come back, because effectively he's going to lose the 25 points for the win, no matter what happens. It depends who gets it though, because if someone crazy, we know what the race is going to be like here. If someone crazy wins, then maybe it isn't so bad. But yeah, you never know. As Bianca there goes up with a 30.8, and there's definitely going to be some very fast lap times coming in. The likes of Owen McGorgy, purple in the first couple of sectors. We're going to be into the low 30s at the end of the session. And there's the 30.4.
Yep, so Purple, the doctors would like to have a say of him, and he's gone to the top of the standings with a 1 minute 30.4. Qualifying very difficult around here, as you know, Cam. I'm not going to take the mick too much, but it is crucial equally as well, as Simoncic goes up to third place with a fast final sector as well. Overtaking, I feel, has been made a little easier by missing out those 3 corners that you were talking about at the top of the show, but it's not made it, the easiest circuit on the calendar by any means. It's still tricky, and track position still going to be important. So qualifying a real key.
It certainly is, and what we saw maybe happen in the pro race as well is you can get close, but actually making that overtake is very difficult. It's more being putting pressure. But now we've got DRS the whole length of this straight as it goes through turn 6, but it's still not an easy overtake here. You have to really dive it down. You've got big curve on the left, big curve on the right, anti-cut if you go wide as well. So it's certainly a tough track. You can just see the rear sliding on Matt Williams' car, who had a great comeback and was riding up well inside the top 5, entering the race back at Hockenheim. And let's see if we can continue that on this lap.
As bypassing a couple of the corners that were previously omitted from the Singapore Grand Prix circuit, the Singapore Sling, which is now just turn 10, down there at the very southern end of the circuit, if you like, if you want to look at it geographically like that. And then we'll make our way towards the 3 corners that have more recently been taken out of this circuit, I think for the better. So there is turn 14, then they'll go through 15, which is not really a corner, but it used to be the braking zone for 16. Instead, they won't go through that, they won't go under the bridge either. They'll come in, tearing in to turn what is now turn 16 at real high speed. Then 17, 18, 19 not changed, other than we have to relearn the corner numbers again. And then you'll be over the line. Matthew Williams setting the benchmark for himself with a top 10. Yannick Bock going relatively quickly at the moment as well. He's got a purple first sector, and will be riding on board with him through the final part of the lap. Doesn't seem to be too quick through that last chicane, but all okay. Now over the line for Bock, and it is going to be second for the tied championship leader, who'll get himself nearly tied for pole position as well, on the front row at least.
And we do know how the Evo boys go very well around here. Of course, with Siebel, Jordan, previously of that, now at Ferrari, but of course, Dennis Jordan's team Evo, and Yannick Bock as well. Back in GPV WC Super League, I think it was 5 years in a row between 2018 and 2022. One of those 3 drivers for Evo won of this track, so they are looking very, very good historically, but as ever, things get levelled out every year, and it is some of the championship contenders up towards the front, of course, who are starting to put in some laps as these second lap times come in. We'll take a look at the driver replacing Jake Linehan, who today is Petter Berlak, who, of course, was in the championship last year for Alpine eSports.
Yeah, absolutely. So, got a bit of time left in this qualifying session. What is it, just over 3 minutes now. Owen McCorkey still going very quickly, and he's been so impressive on his debut season in the Formula SimRacing World Championship. Fantastic to see him win at the Australian Grand Prix. Can he go one better and do it again at the Singapore Grand Prix? He's just got himself another 2 temps out in front. He's flying.
That's a very quick lap indeed, into the low 30s, as we were expecting. How low can they go with the final lap? Brackshock as well. He's slightly struggled so far this season comparatively, and he gets himself up there on the front row as it stands. He was a qualifying master, a couple of pole positions last year. Sometimes fell off in the races, though, unfortunately, but the qualifying hasn't been his strong suits this season. That's obviously what's given the boost this time around in Singapore.
Yeah, out towards the line again for another round of times. Jurnej Simoncic goes a little bit quicker as well, but can't move up anywhere. He stays 4th, and that will be pretty much it for the next round of times. Just want to do a little bit of trivia with you, Cam, just before we get the next few times in from the likes of Williams and Jan Grankvist as well, who's out there and we're following at the moment. We've had 3 different winners in the last or the first 3 races, excuse me, of 2024, which bizarrely has happened 3 of the last 4 years preceding this one, which I find quite amazing. Only Michi Hoyer's streak at the start of 2021 can break that run of remarkable form for the series anyway. But do you know, can you guess, when the last year we had 4 different winners in the first 4 races was?
16.
It's 2010.
Oh!
Very long time ago. Eventually, of course, Bono House went on to win by 125 points, but it was very close at the start, and there were 4 different winners in the first 4 races.
124 points, 25 points. Oh, I guess it's probably an 18 race season, was it?
Oh yes, it was a lot.
Yeah, it's the longer seasons.
That wouldn't happen these days. Certainly not. But yeah, 125 points to the good that day. Won the opening race of the season, but took him to Monaco until he really got his act in gear. Then he didn't finish off the podium again after round 5. 13 race streak on the podium to end out the season back in 2010. But that's a bit of history for you from the Formula SimRacing World Championship. Hopefully Bono House is not listening, so he doesn't feel too old about that. But,
talking about, I saw, is that so huge spin? Didn't stroll it, but Callas across the line backwards in P13 there as Sergio Fletcher goes purple in the first sector. Yeah, that is, those stats are quite sound. But I did see Bono House, he turned 30 this week.
He was a young lad at the time, wasn't he?
30.
Wow. He was a young lad when he was winning FSR.
Like a 14-year-old kid back in the day, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Unbelievable. But that's what Colin Sport's going to be like when he's 30.
What, in 20 years' time?
Yeah.
When he turns 30.
Yeah, absolutely. Very young and promising driver, of course, for, partly race touch, I suppose, Alpine, all that. Not here this season, unfortunately. The seconds ticking down then, and the improvements have really petered out here late on, actually. Let's see if Sergio Fletcher can change that. He's gone purple in the first sector. What about at the end? Well, it's fallen away from him, unfortunately. He's down to 16th place in this session. Over the line for Valeriano as well. Only a second off the pace, but 18th position. Not even many green sectors hanging about at the moment. 1 of 2 is from Matthias Stair in the first sector. The better of the 2 Go Team cars, currently lining up on row 6, but he will stay there despite improving. Michi Hoyer might be going a bit quicker. This is a bit more like it from Michi Hoyer. This is maybe a bit more 2021 form from him, possibly in qualifying. Let's see if he can do it. 9th place at the moment, personal best though in the first 2 sectors.
Absolutely coming out. Oh, bit of a bonk at the wall coming towards the final corner. Can he do something? Go all the way out towards the curb and up towards the line. P9 currently, can he do an improvement? Yes, he can. Up towards P5, 4 tenths off, but McGorgy's also looking fast. Let's
see if he can improve. Well, he doesn't, but he might not need to. Hear from Owen McGorgy. What a fantastic qualifying session from him. Jurnej Simicic's now the only one who can displace him, I think. Peter Burlak is going to be around abouts as well, but how close is he realistically going to get from 10th position? He was the winner when we last visited this venue in 2019. He spins over the line, will stay 11th. What about Jurnej Simicic? He moves up to 2nd. That's what he could realistically hope for from that lap, to be honest. McGorgy seemed unbeatable, but getting up onto the front row with him was the achievement there for Jurnej Simicic, who will be 2nd. Let's have a look at your qualifying results at the end of that session. Owen McGorgy does take it, but less than a quarter of a tenth between Simicic, Braxok and Bock, who will line up with him on those first 2 rows. It's a good overall qualifying from RFR eSports team. Michi Hoyer is 5th ahead of Matthew Williams for Optimino. It's Jan Kvankvist 7th in the 777 car. Manuel Bianca maybe a little bit disappointed with 8th, but he is ahead of the 2 Scuderia Ferrari eSports team drivers. Alex Siebel out-qualifies Dennis Jordan. Peter Perlak is driving for Race Clutch today, looking to turn back time, if you like, and go back to that 2019 victory. He's ahead of the 2 Go Team cars, followed by Sander Callas. Danny van der Neet is running out the top 15 for Netrex, ahead of Sergio Fletcher, who won in Pro. It is Jukka-Pekka Lalu in 17th ahead of Giordano Valeriano, George Salagianis and Philip Pushka to round out the top 20. And then there's only one more today, Stavros Mercedes, 1.3 seconds off the pace. So 21 cars on the grid. And of course we have that new team Optimino added since the first round of the championship. They weren't at the Bahrain Grand Prix. They've been at every one since. And Owen McGorgy is on pole position. Can he become the first two-time race winner in 2024? What a story for him it would be, because he's not been inside the top 5 yet, other than his victory.
That 0.3 of a second gap is pretty ominous, though, wouldn't you say? We know that this is a bit of a qualifying track in some ways. You know, if you string a lap together, you can have a bit of a stormer. And like you've seen in the years gone by, I'm sure the race pace will be a bit closer. But still, that is certainly something. He clearly has the confidence, and we saw that when he had his win in Melbourne, didn't we? He just seemed to have that extra bit of confidence. I know Yannick Bok gave him a really good run for the race win that day as well, but McGorgy just seemed to have that little bit more and was able to overtake him at the crucial point in the race. So I wouldn't be surprised if he does similar. What we don't know quite yet is how the strategy is going to go today, because the harder tyres were used by Ewan back in Hockenheim. He did 3 sets of the hard tyres on the free start and managed to make it work. I don't know if that's going to be the same today, purely because of the type of the track it is. You need those softer tyres to come out the corners. It's certainly going to be a little bit more difficult for the drivers to do that. So I do think the strategy is going to be very open, and then it depends where you come out on the train as well. You're not going to be able to overtake the cars during the stop.
It's going to be very tricky to do that indeed. A bit of confusion as to where Jake Dennehan is today, by the way. He's not around for today's race. He's got a shoulder injury, unfortunately, so won't be participating today. That will leave a bit of a hole in the field, really, if you like. He's third in the championship at the moment, just 4 points off the lead. And as we talked about earlier, the momentum that he'll lose from that is quite significant. As we were talking about with strategy before we came to air here, Cam, it's a bit up in the air, and there are always surprises in the Formula SimRacing World Championship. We saw a very surprising strategy from rFactor, for example, in the German Grand Prix 2 weeks ago. They went for probably more stops than were necessary. Well, if they could do that race again anyway, they wouldn't do that amount of stops, I would argue. But today, we're going to be seeing everyone try and limit their stops, because as you said, track position is going to be key. But how much can you cope being on those hard tyres? How easily can you find a way through on people? Maybe someone in this field will find the magic touch in terms of making moves in the field. There doesn't seem to be much agreement in this warm-up session, for example, on which tyres they might start the race on either.
The last 2 races, so obviously back in Hockenheim, you mentioned Ewan, he did 3 sets of the hards to start the race, so he started on the hard tyres in the first stint. I'm pretty sure back in Melbourne, McGorgy also started on hards, so it might be something to look at for those drivers, especially if you say you can't overtake. Once if you keep the lead after lap 1, and then you just hold everyone up as such. It's certainly a potential opportunity. However, we do see the likes of Simčić, he's on the softs, Bok is on the softs, quite good mediums as well. They want the softer tyres at the beginning to potentially make some moves so that everyone's close together.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see when we get to the warm-up lap in a few moments' time. One more lap around here as well than we used to have. It used to be a 61-lap race, but the slight shortening of the circuit means that they'll be taking a little bit of a further trip around, one more lap, and we've gone from a couple of actually the shortest races on the calendar, especially the Australian Grand Prix, which is such a fast racetrack these days, gone to one of the slower, although the Singapore Grand Prix has sped up a little bit in recent years as a result of the emission of those 3 corners on the back straight, so towards the back half of the lap. It still means that it's one of the slower Grand Prix on the calendar, and we will be having a little bit of a longer race to enjoy over the course of 62 laps here this afternoon. Petr Burlek, for example, in 2019 won in 1 minute 43, although the times were obviously a little bit slower back then in terms of lap times. That's to be expected as the warm-up ends now, or just about now. A couple of drivers still out there on the circuit, but warm-up for the most part coming to an end, and then we'll get some answers in terms of what tyre everybody's going to be starting on here, and what's the best idea really, and just how much of today is going to be about staying out of trouble. The walls are very close around here. It's proper street circuit racing, you could argue, for the second time this season already, with the addition of the Australian Grand Prix earlier on this season, but it's going to be a lot about survival.
Are you calling Albert Park a street track?
Yeah, it kind of is.
Are you going to start that one?
It is.
I mean, it is. It's not a full permanent track, but it is kind of a permanent track. It's like Jeddah. Jeddah is not a street track. It has concrete walls, but it was literally made to be that.
Well, you could argue that all street circuits are made to be
Miami,
like
it's a car park. That needs to be the new category.
Well, these are some circuits they need to get rid of anyway. But that's another that's another prospect for the Formula One calendar, which was released today, was it, or yesterday, for everyone to have a look at. FSR will not be using that calendar. I can announce.
We'll be using some of it.
I'm just saying not all of them, and certainly not in that order. Anyway, that's a separate discussion to be had later today. Meanwhile, let's get on with the starting grid ahead of 62 laps of the Singapore Grand Prix. As we just seen, Aaron Bagorgi will be the pole sitter ahead of four-time champion Ewan Simicic. Jonas Braxuk qualifies third. He'll be ahead of Yannick Bock in the second row. Those three anyway, were 3 tenths off Magorgi to start off that session. Michi Hoyer and Matthew Williams will be on row 3 ahead of Jan Krakist, who's qualified a little bit down there in 7th position. Manuel Biancalula, 8th position on row 4. Alex Siebel and Dennis Jordan look out an all-Ferrari 5th row with Peter Burlak and Matthias Stair on row 6. That's the first of the 2 Go Team cars, because next up is Cosmo Prosciutto, former pro champion. Sander Callas is there for ground effect in 14th, Danny van der Neat, and Sergio Fletcher for the second of the Optiminal cars. Yuka Bekalalu and Giordano Valeriano are on row 9 ahead of George Zaragianis. Philip Puska with Stavros Mercedes, the final driver on the grid for Netrex Grand Prix. 21 on the grid, as we mentioned. Jake Danahan not here on this occasion as they make their way round. There are the live standings. It's so close, and hopefully it's going to remain like that. For the neutral, it's been a wonderful start to the Formula SimRacing World Championship. It's for us to get through 3 rounds and already have the top driver on only 2/3 of the maximum points. It's a great sign normally, and it's been a good sign for a good 2024 championship as well. Hopefully that can continue, but the prospect of a different race winner may be minimal, with the front row locked out by former race winners this season.
Look at the tyre choices coming. An absolute Christmas tree, which is what we like. We did mention this back in Hockenheim, how literally any of the tyre compounds just seem to work at any point in the race. It just depends how you want to do that. Of course, you have to use 2 different compounds over the race, and you can't have all your all your eggs in one basket. You can't just front load softs to start the race, because then you'll be really slow at the end. You have to try and work it out. So it's going to be a strategic battle. We've got soft versus hard though on the front row and the second and the third row before we get some mediums a bit later in the top 10.
Yeah, we'll see whether that's actually true as well, what we're being shown on the graphics at the moment, because that's always another prospect to ponder. Just how truthful is it being with us? We'll find out pretty shortly after the race gets going, as Magorgi just pulls up in his box, makes an absolute maximum out of what he can, just edging forward as much as possible. Simicic's a little bit more conservative in his grid box, I think it's fair to say, as the final driver Stavros Mercedes now gets into position as well. It'll be time to go racing again at the Singapore Grand Prix. Our first visit here in 5 years. A new layout and a new prospects for everybody. All 21 drivers tearing down in towards turn number 1 with a championship on the line here at round number 4. 7 rounds to go as the 2024 season gets into full swing in Singapore. We're underway at the Marina Bay Street Circuit, and it's a great start from Ewan Simicic. Last time out's race winner already into the lead again, although Magorgi's not going to go lying down with this one. He'll go to the outside through turn 3. That will give him the outside for 4 if he can stay there, but he can't quite do it, and now he's going to have to attack immediately as they head down the next straight. Through turn 5 they'll go, and it's single file inside the top 10 or so. It seems that most have gotten away cleanly, though Matthias Stair is already miles away from the back of the field. Down in towards turn 7 they go for the first time, and it's single file rather than Manuel Biancalula trying to make up places early on.
We had a huge crash on the start line though in the background. We have to try and work out what happened. But there was cars, there was front wings going everywhere as we came a little bit further back in the field. There's side by side there, come through the very fast right-hander at turn 9, and in the background as well, Lally, huge setup inside potentially, but also Callas still trying to make some moves in towards the Spain. Don't always see overtaking opportunities here, but Danny Van Der Leek from Networks is trying to do so.
Oh, it's very close as they go over the bridge. Oh, there's carnage! Oh, goodness gracious! Someone's in the wall down here, and there's a car park at the hairpin. It's bodywork everywhere. There's wheels and tyres, front wings, and cars all over the place. What a mess down there at the hairpin. It's turn 13 where it's all kicked off, and I'm afraid there are barely 6 or 7 of them without damage in this race now.
Oh, that was off camera again. We're actually trying to find the replay. So we've got Dennis Jordan out front. We've got Valeriano. Alex Siebel is out of the race to just add nightmares to his season. Lalu also without the front wing is Pushki trying to come through the carnage. Everyone coming down into pit road. That is not how you want to start lap 1. But let's see how many cars are actually surviving. We've got the top 5 going down to Michi Hoyer, and then there's a huge gap back already to Bianca Lilla.
This is just unbelievable. A huge stoppage down at the hairpin, a car park, a roadblock down at turn 13. It was Alex Siebel, I think, the one who was initially in the way. He was missing a rear tyre by the time the camera had panned round to him. He was stuck on the inside of the corner, couldn't go anywhere. Now, how did he get there is the question. He is out of the race, as you well know, and this is a little look at what happened. We'll try and fish it out from the replays, but there's so much to unpick here and so many cars who have gotten damage as a result. Matthias Stair, by the way, is already out of the race too at the end of lap number 1, or well, not even at the end of lap number 1, to be fair. There's the initial contact. So it was with Matthew Williams and whoever he was with. Bianca Lilla was the only one able to come to a stop and avoid.
Yeah, this is Lilla Gorka. So Williams here is behind Hoyer, coming down in towards, just taps the back of him, and then in the background, Dragfist hits him, and then of course there's absolutely nowhere the likes of Alex Siebel, for instance, and his teammates. And there's also kind of buildup coming in just behind them. Absolute carnage. I mean, literally, what could they have done? You don't expect cars to stop there.
Dear oh dear, and he was just getting chucked along there like I don't know what. Well, that was absolutely terrible for everybody involved. I reckon 10 of the 21 drivers have been into pit lane so far today. Jan Krankwist, the first of them to re-emerge. He was actually the least damaged of the damaged cars, if you see what I mean, and was able to get underway again quite quickly. Owen McCorgie looks to the inside down at turn 7. That was pretty close. That's Memorial Corner, the right-angled left-hander. A bit of an handy cut on the outside. Seen of plenty of overtakes, maybe most of the overtakes here today, but is it already too early to say that we're down to a 5-horse race here? It may not be.
I don't see any other outcome. I mean, Bianca has caught up by well over a second already, but we've had some more yellow flags in a couple of the sectors as we have people with further issues. Callas has DNF'd as it's getting very close to the lead.
Yeah, it seems that Fletcher is stopped on the front straight as well. I wonder whether in contact down there at the back of the field. Maybe one of those races and a very attritional World Championship Grand Prix. Well, that is a stroll. You were talking about that earlier on. That was a solo incident, I'm afraid, for Sergio Fletcher, who just got a little bit sideways, and both right side tyres seem to be off of his car. That will be the end of his day. Sander Callas has self-inflictedly ended his day.
Right. I think we know what happened. What happened there. Clearly does not wanting to continue in the race, and he is there back into the pit lane. But up to the front, it's a 5-car battle. But we do have a very interesting battle because it's soft, hard, soft, hard, soft. We have Bianca Lilla, who's caught another second to these drivers. So Bianca Lilla will be there by the end of this stint. And Danny Van Der Leek running pro driver in reserve, running up inside the top 10. So I wouldn't be surprised if we do have a couple of cars on the back of this, because it definitely looks like Sivicic isn't going full pace if he's got the likes of McGorgy behind on the hard staying up with him.
Yeah, exactly. That's my fear here in some ways for those around him. Just what is he holding back here? Ewan Simicic. We know that he does like to play these strategic games in some ways, or is Zane McGorgy just able to keep up? Not entirely sure at the moment, but it's going to be a long race between these two, and a good battle, I'm hoping, as well at some point between these two drivers. Both up there in the championship early on, of course, 5th and 6th respectively, 8 and 14 points away from Bock and Bianca Lula, who, well, one of which was caught up in that opening incident. Bianca Lula had to go around and come to a dead stop almost at lap 1 there, but he got away without damage at least. This is the start for Ewan Simicic as we join him at the end of the formation lap here, and a good start from him, really. Nothing you wouldn't expect, I suppose, from a soft tyre runner. His tyres clearly helping him get off to a better start than Owen McGorgy did here, but it was crucial for him to get into the lead here.
Yeah, absolutely. Just wanted to see this again because he obviously had such a better launch on those soft compound tyres. He already gained that extra car length and a half by the time he got in towards turn number 1. McGorgy, though, did try and fight it, and to be fair, Simicic left in the space. But of course, just that extra grip you can see already on the exit of the corner. McGorgy was not able to hold on. So good choice there from Simicic to get that track position.
Yeah, it's very important, and tyres writ large for everyone to see there in terms of the advantage that they bring. Now, what happened back in the pack, because you're right, there was some goings on back here. Matthias Stair was out before anybody could even have that incident down at the hairpin. I'm afraid he's in the mid-pack here for Go Team. I'm wondering whether he actually gets going at all here. He's in the very bottom right there, so we stay on board with Philip Pushka here. So no, he doesn't get going at all. He's hit in the rear, and both his rear tyres are gone before anyone can even blink. Unfortunately, that was the end of Matthias Stair's day. I'm not entirely sure who hit him on the way past, because there's so many pieces of bodywork that were cast to the side of the road at the end of the opening lap. It's almost too difficult to count, but unfortunately that was Stair's day over before it even really began.
Yeah, that's a weird one. He must have just not got away from the start there. And unfortunately, when you're sort of in the mid-pack, when you've got everyone coming in behind you, you know, they're expecting all of the cars to move ahead, so you just go flat out into it. But obviously, you know, if someone stopped having a bit of a slow start, then that is something that is certainly unavoidable sometimes. As Bianca Lilla, Bianca Lilla has caught up, and he's on the medium tyres, so he's doing something a bit different to the drivers around him. He's obviously had to push to catch up, but now he'll be able to save as he gets onto the back of that train.
Well, I feel like he's been lurking at that distance for quite a while now, and I just wonder how much he's using up to actually try and get to these guys, and is it going to be worth it by the end of the day? Well, we'll wait and see on that front, of course, but at least he is still in the race and hasn't had to take a trip down pit lane yet at all. Jan Kvakvist is still leading those who have. Dennis Jordan is there as well as Petr Perlak. For example, Yukmeka Lalu in that train, along with Valeriano as well. They're all somewhat working together back there. It's going to be a day of recovery. The reason, I guess one of the reasons why they're still in the race is because top 15 get points, so it's more than worth carrying on for those drivers back there, likes of Grankvist and Jordan, who are in the top 10 in the championship. They need to pick up everything that they can, and they are still in the points as things stand.
Yeah, it's definitely something that we'll have to sort of look out as the race goes on. Of course, Grankvist actually has got a bit of a gap ahead and behind, but of course, you know, there is a little bit of a train of cars being led by Dennis Jordan as they come halfway through the lap so far. So these drivers, they're still in the points, as you say, only 17 drivers out, so basically they're all going to get points, because I'm sure there'll be a couple of other DNFs as the race goes on. So they just need to keep going and see what they can do to catch up to the drivers ahead. It's going to be a big, tough, you know, task on pace, but it's always a game of attrition when you come here to Singapore.
It certainly is, and it's pretty sure to say that that won't be the last attrition that we see today from the opening lap there. Many drivers out, unfortunately 4 of them out in the first couple of laps of this race. Now, I'm not so sure Simicic is just tapping along here and just, you know, whistling as he's going along here, just not really pushing. I'm not sure whether that's true or not. The way he was weaving around on the straight there, suggesting that maybe he was trying to break the slipstream a little bit, trying to prevent McGorgy from going through, suggests to me that he is at least going at some pace and doesn't want to be overhauled and still just definitely want to lead here.
I'm trying to remember who I was on with, do you remember the Azure Grand Prix in 2020? I don't think you were on that one. Don't think you'd quite joined. You may have been the race 2 after at Silverstone, if I remember rightly. But I know it's Aidan Millwood. That's it. I was on with Aidan on that race, and obviously, you know, Azure similar track to this, but even more extreme. And Simchit started on the soft, and of course, it's 78 laps around that track, and he went something like 38 on the soft tyres. He was just under driving it, and as soon as people started pitting around, he just absolutely went off into the distance. Did an easy one-stop that day. I don't think I'm going to see a one-stop today, but he just had so much control of that softer tyre on that day, and that was really his strong point. And I do wonder if that's going to be a similar one. It's so funny how it changes around. In the previous race, it was all about the hards. He loved the hards, and now today he's on the soft, and McGorgy is on the hards. So it does definitely depends track to track.
It does. I may have done that race. I can't really remember, to be honest with you. It was very early on in that season, it's fair to say, when we started out in 2020. Another one of those seasons, by the way, that had 3 different winners the first 3 races. How odd is that? Simoncic went on to be the title winner in that one, starting off, or continuing on his run, I should say, of what would be 3 in a row back there in the late 10s, early 20s, if you like. Meanwhile, side by side and down the inside for Stavros Bouzidis, that was over-exuberant, over-ambitious, and he's back down to 11th place.
Yeah, that's not how you do it, as we've had a couple... I don't know, that was a little while ago. Yeah, we had the DNF, of course, for Callas and Fletcher, but I also noticed we had a penalty come in for Valeriano to add more troubles to his day down in P16. Don't think he's served it yet, of course, but potentially at the next pit stop, he'll have to sit there for a little bit longer, because I assume there's either going to be a drive-through or a stop-go penalty.
Yeah, that will not be an ideal start to the race, as we're continuing under the night lights here at the Singapore Grand Prix. Let's have a look back at what happened. With a replay is Giordano Valeriano down towards turn 1, using the sort of tarmac to the right hand side here, painted in yellow. Staying within the track boundaries at least.
That's where he got his penalty, apparently. He did go a little bit wide of the final corner, but
harsh.
Yeah, I'd say that is a little bit harsh. Let's see a replay of this overtake.
Well, it was a very brief one, I'm afraid. Mercedes was very narrowly down to the inside. Broke too late, had to skip around the anti-cut, and Pushka gets back in front again. Because these are the kind of risks you have to take at Singapore. You've got to sort of take on half chances, if you like. You can't wait for a full one to smack you in the face.
Certainly not. And if you do get that opportunity, you have to just send it, and that's what he did. He is getting he is getting closer though, so I wonder if he'll be able to come back.
Let's see as we continue this battle for the top 10. Good driving from these two so far to stay out of trouble, but staying inside the top 10 is going to be the key to the day, and whether they can stay in front of Jan Grankvist or not is a mystery still. Will remain that way, you'd imagine, for quite some time too. DRS for Valeriano as he tries to stay with Jukka-Pekka Lalu. Not quite in a train anymore back there. Previously it was Jordan Burlak, Lalu and Valeriano. That's not the same. In fact, the only train in the field is now here. It's the 6-car train, because Manuel Biancalula is now with the leaders.
He is, and I wonder how he's going to attack this. Of course, he's not just going to be able to overtake them, but I wonder if he can add any sort of pressure on the back. Of course, Hoy's just kind of sitting there at the moment. I'm sure he's not really thinking about doing too much, but now he's got Biancalilla to think about in the background. You never know what is going to happen. We're already on to lap 10, and I would expect, no matter what tyres you're on, around lap 15 or so, is probably somewhere around there. If we're expecting 3 stops, of course, divide the race into 4, and that's about 15 laps, so roughly we'll be seeing the pit lanes. But actually, is McGorgy a bit closer this time around?
I feel like he's always this close, but he just fakes it to the inside, then pulls back to the racing line again. Not really sure what the aim of that is, to be honest, to get in the mirrors of Simoncic, put him off or what, but it's not really garnered any results just yet. He's just staying in second position, trailing Simoncic. I'm not sure whether he's very worried either about this situation, because as he said, Simoncic might just be driving within himself right now, or McGorgy could be driving well to stay with him. But then again, the same would have to be true for everybody else in the group, including Biancalilla, who has caught the group, of course, on the medium tyres, which is also a harder tyre than what Simoncic is driving with for now. So it's a puzzling situation, to be honest, in the lead of the race, and you wonder how long it's going to stay like this for.
Well, I can tell you a good fact. So the fastest lap of the race at the moment is Van der Neat on a 35.2. Last lap from Simoncic was a 37.19. So basically almost exactly 2 seconds lap slower. Of course, that's a bit different because Van der Neat is pushing like a madman to catch up, and Simoncic is out the front, but still 2 seconds just shows you where Van der Neat's probably pushing a second too much, and Simoncic probably underdriving by a second as well.
Yeah, that time, by the way, was only 1.2 seconds quicker than the 2019 cars went around the previous layout. So that maybe tells you a lot. That's the fastest lap, by the way, I'm marking that against, which is maybe a bit inaccurate. Martin Gosby said it that day with a 38.3, which has obviously been beaten by everybody so far in this race, apart from those who have retired from the race already. Meanwhile, the 6 of them make their way down towards turn 7 in a line. Wonder if Danny Van der Neat is going to catch these guys at all, to be honest, because as you say, he is going quicker. Last time around did a 36.8, which was actually only marginally quicker than Simoncic, I suppose, but nevertheless, he might get there.
He might do, and I wouldn't count him out of being in this battle at some point, to be honest. I think he'll be able to to get there. It just depends how long it takes him to do so, because he's a pro driver. I know he's been in the WC for a long time, but you would expect him to just be that ever so slightly bit slower than these guys, but he is bringing Matt Williams along with him as well. So we could end up with an 8-car train. Just depends how much further on the tyres these guys up ahead go, I would expect, and how sort of much they slow down at the end of this stint.
It's a bit of a waiting period for us at the moment. There's Jonas Braxuk, 4th place at the moment for him in what's been a decent season. Started with a podium, of course, but it's come off the rails a little bit since then. No top 10s even since that podium we saw at the opening round of the season, the Bahrain Grand Prix. At the time, that was his first podium in about 18 months, going back to the 2022 French Grand Prix, when he was also 3rd that day. Still searching for his race win, though, of course. He was 2nd in Japan that year, Germany the year before that. He gets close very often and always qualifies very well. 5 pole positions to his name, but still no race wins. We say it every week, or I do. Will today be the day? Well, maybe. He's certainly going to have a few more people willing him on now. The Brabham eSports livery has reverted back to that one. They've got rid of the pink. It was not very popular with some people.
It was interesting.
It was.
Of course, they basically so merged the teams, didn't they? So the Arnage pink has gone, but the Brabham gold and green is going to continue. And I wonder for the likes of Brakshock, how frustrating it must be to see someone like Owen McGorgy come in and within 2 races getting a pole and a win. And when Brakshock has been doing this for 5 years now, maybe 6 years that he's been in the World Championship. And he's showed the speed but hasn't been able to do so. But he does keep on coming back, and as you see today, he's certainly on a lot better form. So this track really suiting him, maybe just doing a bit better prep as well.
Yeah, debut in 2019 for Jonas Braksuk, by the way, as you correctly predicted at the time. He was in this race that year as well, 7th position for him on that day, just ahead of Michi Hoyer and Danny Van der Neat, rather ironically, because that's exactly the sort of region he's in at the moment as well, with Manuel Biancalilla in there too. Owen McGorgy, by the way, only on his 5th start in the World Championship here this time around. He made his debut at the Brazilian Grand Prix of last year, now at his first full season, and only his 5th start. It's been a remarkable turn up, if you like, for him to FSR. He's hit the ground running, I think it's fair to say. He's right in the mix this season, right in the mix for maybe another podium here today. I think the next key for me in terms of his driving is getting into the top 5 more consistently, because he does only have one so far. It was a race win, but only having one top 5 is going to be a problem in a championship fight.
I reckon that's just with how the season's going. I mean, it's always the same with Simoncic. Is that stat not the same?
Well, Simoncic's been in the top 5 twice. It's just the Australian Grand Prix that wasn't very good.
Oh yeah, the first race as well. Yeah, I forgot about that one in Bahrain. But it's a very up and down season with how it's been. It's like Grankler down in P12 now. But I think it really seems to depend on the qualifying this year, because when it's so close, and I know actually it was a 3/10 gap from McGorgy this time around, but when it's so close in general, just a couple of tenths, and that might be 5 or 6 places, that's a lot of cars you have to overtake in the race just for being a couple of tenths shy in the qualifying. And we've seen, for instance, like the Ferrari drivers as well. They've struggled with qualifying this year, and once again, they were caught up in that incident on lap 1. That's only because they were further back in the qualifying. Then you get the likes of Brakshook and Hoyer, who have slightly better qualifyings than they have so far, and now they're in this top 5 battle.
Yeah, but speaking of which, by the way, a bit of a bizarre statistic about Michi Hoyer. He's finished 9th place in all 3 of the races so far this season, which is especially odd considering how topsy-turvy this season has been. Unsurprisingly, that is the longest run of his career, finishing 9th in a row, because that's a very odd and niche thing that probably won't happen again either in his career, to be honest with you. He's looking to improve on that though, still running 5th, at the back of this train, as we've got Zalagianis out now. We've had Giordano Valeriano, as I'm sure many of you noticed, disqualified from the back end of the standings, but I'm afraid Valeriano's DNF is a little bit more visual for us. So what's happened to the ground effect SimRacing driver? Looks like he's had a disconnection of sorts here.
That's a big shame. Big shame for Zalagianis running up in the points, and that was going to be a strong finish. Matt Williams there, just going a bit wide and off the track as well, as also Petter Burlak having some issues. So it's definitely not an easy track, is it, for all of the drivers out there? So he just slightly loses the rear end as well, has to bump over the empty cuts.
Yeah, it's a very big curve down on the inside. Won by 9 seconds, by the way, last time we were at the Singapore Grand Prix, and don't see that happening here today, unfortunately, for the Race Cups driver. Out of the final corner for the leading 5. Is it about to be a leading... Well, it's not. Yeah, it was a leading 6, wasn't it? Manuel Biancalula has gone, and that's why he's in the pit lane. So medium tyre runner pits first after only a quarter of the race. Now, the field's so spread out here, he might find himself in a bit of clean air in a few moments' time.
I'm sure he'll love that. Yeah, I think he just had to push too much to catch up to that that battle. He had to catch up a good sort of 6 seconds or so, and then he dropped back. He was 2 seconds off the back of Hoyer on that lap, by the way. So it wasn't like he was all over the back and just came in the pit lane. He was starting to drop, and now he's on the hard tyres. So I'm trying to think, can he do his special? He's loved the medium hard in basically every race so far this season. Can he do it again from here? Trying to do a bit of quick maths. He might be okay, but he does have to go a long way. However, he did so, remember back in Bahrain, he went way longer than we were expecting on the hards.
Only driver to be in the top 5 in all 3 rounds this season, and one of 2 to be on the podium twice. Can he keep those runs going here at the Singapore Grand Prix? We'll see. I mean, it might not be a bad call for him here, because even if he is going to maybe stop more times than everybody else, he might instigate some stops from the 5 who are remaining at the front of the standings. But also, equally, they could stay out there for a long time and he could undercut them all.
He could, and I think that's going to be the biggest threat and the biggest thing that these guys are thinking about. No one dives into the pit lane though, so maybe they are not even looking that far back. But McGorky really is putting the pressure on Simicic, looking slightly towards inside turn 1, and I think this is a game of he's pushing Simicic to try and go faster, but Simicic is just trying to hold it back, trying to eke these soft tyres out as long as he can go.
That's some more pit stops here as Matthew Williams and Danny van der Neat follow one another down pit lane for the first time this afternoon. Optimal servicing their only horse left in the race. Up on the Jackson, Williams gets going again just behind van der Neat, who's back on the medium tyres again for Netrex, who've got a bit of a new look going on here this time around in the purpley bluey sort of livery for the Singapore Grand Prix. And there's Stavros Mercedes' version as he tries to find his way past Philip Pushka. That very much leaves a big hole in the field actually from these guys right up to the leaders, who have got quarter of a minute over everybody now. Jan Kvanquist ahead of van der Neat and Williams, so maybe he's making an extra stop in this race, clearly Kvanquist, but maybe he's not out of this race totally.
Yeah, it depends how long he wants to go on these hard tyres. If he wants to try and save a stop somehow, as you said, he's effectively made one stop already, so Yes, it's obviously quite a bit of time lost, plus the damage repairs as well. That would have added a decent amount of time. So it's going to be a tough one to come back from that, because I don't think just doing like a hard and trying to run along is going to work. As all those drives in the pit lane, McGorgy, so interesting. The hard tyres come in, 3 softs stay out at the front.
Well, very interesting indeed. So it's about the quality of tyre rather than the quantity of the stint, it seems. Hard tyres again for Braxock though. So put that to the side almost. Let's see if there'll be a change here for McGorgy. No, hard tyres remaining on the race clutch car. So where is Manuel Biancalilla in comparison to them? There he is on the left-hand side. He might well be ahead of them both here because he's got a better run through turn 1. It's a nicer line, very tight run in on the pit exit there, and so Biancalilla can just cut underneath Owen McGorgy here into turn 5. He's on the outside again and will have to cut underneath for a second time. His tyres are up to temperature and he's firing on all cylinders now. Manuel Biancalilla looking for the inside through turn 6. He squeezes down a very small gap and he will get into the position, will he? Yes, just about. Very close to cutting the nose off McGorgy, the Australian Grand Prix winner, but Manuel Biancalilla up a position. Have they fought themselves into the abyss though? Has Jurnej Simicic been handed the initiative there by the fighting that's gone on behind?
Jurnej Simicic, green I should say, in the first sector. Green in sector 2 as well. Now Jurnej's starting to push. He's going to have to respond to this. And actually that battling between Biancalilla and McGorgy would have lost him a few tenths. And this might actually work out quite well for the Rafa driver. Surely he's got to come in to cover off this undercut. You would think so. Let's see how this one works out. No, he's going to stay out. Interesting. So he must still have enough left in those tyres that he thinks he can hold on for even longer.
Well, it clearly does, but Mitchell Hoyer can't hold on. He is third and back a long way. This is the other lot from 5th place on backwards. Biancalilla leading the line, and now they need to get organised. I think the best thing that McGorgy can do here is just stay behind. Don't get involved here for now. Just sit there, stay where you are, and then hope that you can come out on top in relation to Simicic later on. But is that particularly working for them? As you say, personal best from Simicic on the last time round, but it was personal best final sector for the two, Biancalilla and McGorgy, a couple of moments ago. So they're also going quickly.
So you know, a few laps ago I was mentioning how Simicic did a 37.1. He just did a 35.4, a second and a half quicker. So he was saving in that first stint. Bock has come with, but Michi Hoyer has been dropped. As are we seeing an overtake? Yes, we are. McGorgy went for it down at the end of the DRS straight, but Biancalilla holds on. But they were off track for a moment there, so it's getting tight. And this battle is just once more losing them more time to the battle up ahead. And yeah, Biancalilla last lap was a 36.2, so despite being on the fresher tyres, is going slower.
Look at the aggressive weaving there from McGorgy on the straight, as if to say, what are you doing here? Costing us both the race, but I would argue he could have sat back and just waited there. We'll wait and see as we have a look at the replay. It's outside line, and that's why he's unimpressed. I don't think he was given very much space.
What was Biancalilla penalised for last race? Has to be careful with that one, as Bock takes the lead because Simicic has come in, so he stayed out a couple laps. He wanted to push for a couple of laps, and looking at the pace, he should actually, medium tyres, he should be able to hold on to this with the undercut. Let's see where Biancalilla is. Of course, he was having that big battle, and there is Simicic on the apex of turn 1. Simicic does have a car ahead who's at this Muzaidis for the Netrex, who has stayed out on those medium tyres. But look, Simicic managed to hold on despite pitting 2 laps later. Yep,
so Simicic very quick indeed, and showing just that with the soft compound tyres towards the end of that stint as they make their way out on lap 19 to the back straight here. Simicic is in 4th, then ahead of Biancalilla and McGorgy, who again fight with one another. McGorgy a lot further alongside this time and can't be pushed out, although Biancalilla very nearly does. Now to the inside into the next hairpin at turn 8. Owen McGorgy is through. That was quite an important pass, he will feel, because clearly McGorgy in the pole sitter for this Grand Prix feels quicker than Manuel Biancalilla, and he may well be right.
I'll tell you what, without Biancalilla there, I reckon McGorgy might have had a chance of getting Simicic. Look how close he is. Again, we're going to expect that Simicic isn't going to go the full speed as we saw in that first stint. but McGorgy is really pushing. So now it was soft versus hard last stint. It's now medium versus hard this stint. So Yannick should have a slightly less grip than he had before. But he still went, 18 laps on the soft. So let's see how long he goes on these mediums.
How much of a role can Stavros Mercedes play in this race as well as he makes his way around in third position? Is Yannick Bock and Michi Hoyer going to be involved in here as well? We'll wait and see as we look back from the Netrex car. And then from Jone Simicic, you can see the other race favourites right behind him. McGorgy, Biancalula and Braxock right in behind. Where's Yannick Bock? Is he already ahead? He's ahead of these guys. Yannick Bock is ahead of them. And what a couple of in-laps it's been from him. Meanwhile, Manuel Biancaluna tries to squeeze into line ahead of Michi Hoyer. Can't do it. And he's down to 6th position. But Yannick Bock is into the lead of this race. Stavros Mercedes pulls over now and he's got his white flag up. He'll be letting Jone Simicic through. Maybe McGorgy as well, who just slot into line in 4th position. But that is unbelievable. Yannick Bock is the new race leader.
He certainly is, and in the background, Hoyer gets past Mercedes. Now Biancalilla is just going backwards. He's got stuck behind the Netrex, and Braxock has as well. It's going to be a bit of a breakaway for the top 4 as the Netrex car splits that up. But such intriguing strategies going on here. So Simicic pit 1 lap earlier, and then the overcut still worked. On 19-lap-old softs, Bock still was able to take the lead. But I do think that's because Simicic didn't go full speed on that outlap. You saw how McGorgy was able just to hold on there. And I think Simicic was focused too much more on McGorgy, and Bock managed to do the pair of them.
Well, I've no idea how that's really happened. I'm afraid to say as well that Jan Kvankvist is out the race, so that's another retirement, 6th retirement of the race already, at 7th, excuse me, at the start of this race. Not sure if he's still going to be scored a point for that, Cam, because he is 15th, but he's out.
Won't be classified.
No. Okay.
90%, so he needs to get, what would that be, like 56 in this race. And of course, he's a bit short of that.
We're a long way away from classification, unfortunately, for Jan Kvankvist. So the championship protagonist, who was leading out after the Australian Grand Prix, has lost a sizable amount of points throughout this race in the German Grand Prix too. It's the final corner where he's just gone for a spin and wheels off. The rear left detaches from the car, and that'll be the end of his day.
Yeah, it just went too wide. Unfortunately, that's all it was. You really actually have to use the curb on the inside of that final corner, and he just didn't quite get on it, ran a bit wide, and then when you try and rotate the car even more, the rear obviously just comes around, or you lose grip. If you touch the outside curb, it's a bit of a lose-lose situation. You really have to commit to that inside. It's a tricky corner, actually, that final corner. It's so fast. It's basically just a dab of the brake at best, if not a lift off when the fuel load comes off. So you really have to commit to it, and therefore when you turn in, there's not much you can do after that. As soon as you've turned in, the car's going in that direction. Unfortunately, he just got it a bit wrong.
Yeah, and that's the end of his day. So anyone who will be incentivised now to soldier on, because there are points available for everybody still in the race as a result of a very attritional Singapore Grand Prix. Whether we're going to see a race quite as attritional as this one for the remainder of the 2024 World Championship, I am sceptical, to be honest. The closest circuit and to see this one, maybe Imola. That's quite difficult. Suzuka as well at the end of the season at the Japanese Grand Prix will be pretty tricky as well, but nothing quite like the Singapore Grand Prix that we're seeing here for now. But what a drive from Yannick Bock. He's just set his first flying lap after the stops. It was quicker than Jone Simicic, McGorgy, and a lot of the others. Not Michi Hoyer or Janus Braxock, who really went for it on that last lap, but quicker than the crucial 2 right behind. And Yannick Bock is above the rest of the field by, well, I was about to say some distance. It is 2 seconds, but that feels significant in this race.
Oh, absolutely. I actually didn't quite appreciate that. But Bock, of course, is on the soft tyres, so he's going to try and pull away now. If he's pushing, he's going to do a shorter stint, so he's probably going to have to do hards at the end, but then he's going to have a gap to defend with, whereas the likes of Simicic going longer, McGorgy's used double hard, so he's going to have to go on softer tyres at the end as well. So it might be a bit of a role reversal where they're chasing down Bock. It just depends how much he pushes and how big he wants that gap to be. As well, the more that he pushes, the more those tyres are going to go off. So he's got to be careful where he doesn't want to, take all of his sweeties now and leave none left when he gets to that 15.
Yeah, I mean, don't you feel, though, that it's always is increasingly a risky strategy to do that, get out front and try and defend from the front at the end of the race? Because we saw this 2 weeks ago. Manuel Biancalula tried to do that. I know he was on very old tyres. It's a very different circuit at Hockenheim. But counting against Jurnej Simoncic, or sort of putting yourself and confidence in yourself that you're going to be able to hold back Jurnej Simoncic with a race win on the line, feels a bit of a brave call to me.
I agree. That's going to be tough. And also, what was it, Melbourne? Magorgi came and overtook in the final stint on the fresher tyres to win on that day as well. So we'll have to see. Magorgi is still trying to get past Simoncic, still not able to do so. A little bit of a look to the inside, but once more, Simoncic confident enough not really to defend. So, strategic games going on. 3 different compounds in the top 3, 3 different teams in the top 3 as well, and they could certainly go either way with it.
Yeah, he's slightly restless, isn't he, really, Magorgi? And you can see that by his movements and car body language on the way towards Memorial Corner, which is turn 7. This is P7. Danny van der Neep doing well for Netrex. And to Matthew Williams, who's very much still in the game, despite issues earlier on in the day. Of those who stopped I don't even remember if Williams stopped, to be honest, or whether he was just caught behind the incident at the hairpin. But anyway, he's only 8 seconds off the lead as well. It's just the gaps that are further behind than these guys that get very, very large very quickly.
Yeah, this is certainly turning into a Singapore race as such, with how you have to play it around here. Is not the track where you can just whiz your way through everyone. Magorgi is very close, so at some point, surely he's this close, surely he must be able to get an overtake done. He doesn't go for it into turn 1, but if he's got this much speed, at some point there must be an opening that just comes his way.
Yeah, I feel like if that was any other corner than turn 1, then he might have had a go there, but the braking zone's so short for the opening corner on this racetrack, you can't really do anything, and by the time you're out of turn 5 and onto this straight here, it's very difficult to find your way through from this kind of distance, even as quick as Magorgi is. Michi Hoyer is with these guys as well, and so Magorgi getting sandwiched a little bit now by the 2 Rafa teammates. Manuel Biancalula can't stay with them. Not sure whether that's down to tyre life or whether he doesn't quite have the speed that he's had for the rest of this season here at this race.
Yeah, we did see that in the previous stint, I guess, as well. He did manage to catch up, but then the tyres certainly fell off, and it's nice to see, though, that these 8 cars are staying fairly close together. We've had a very attritional race, as we've been mentioning, with that huge crash down this very corner on the opening lap. But it is nice to see that we have all these different teams still battling inside that top 8, top 9. Trying to work out, is that 7 different teams inside the top 8? So definitely a very, a massive lot of variety, despite the issues that we've had.
Yeah, it is. Unfortunately for the likes of Ground Effect, though, they're already out of the day entirely as a result of crashes and DNFs so far today. But as you say, good variety at the very top, which is what we want to see. We're approaching half distance now in the Singapore Grand Prix. It's Yannick Bock leading the way by 3.5 to 3.7 sort of seconds in the standings. Then Jurnej Simoncic, Magorgi, Michi Hoyer in the next group. Manuel Biancalula leading the next one ahead of Jonas Brachtrup. It's Danny van der Neep and Matthew Williams to cover the first 10 seconds. Bock is extending out this margin quite nicely, but we've got to remember that this is not going to last forever. He gained another half second on Michi Hoyer, as well as Jurnej Simoncic, who's leading the line last time around. But he's got to remember that we are only a few laps into this stint, and this is going to go away from him pretty quickly because he's on the softest compound.
Yeah, he's definitely not doing just absolute quali laps. There's still a bit of, you can just tell when someone's on quali lap, the aggression of the car on the braking, on the entry. We're not quite seeing that. So he is still being smooth. He's just using that extra speed that he's got, those extra natural couple of tenths a lap that you have in the soft compound tyres compared to the mediums of Simoncic. Along the lines of what we've seen earlier, though, Simoncic probably not pushing at 100% himself. So he's just trying to use it nicely. And he went 90 laps in that first stint, but that was with ultra saving. So if he can get let's say 17 laps or whatever that would be, then that would be lap 36. So he's still going to have some long ways to go from that. He's going to really want to try and extend that, I guess, later on, but it all depends how hard he wants to push.
Yeah, it does. 4 seconds now, the gap, as he extends a bit further. Last time around he did a 35.6, just about, we'll call it 35.7. Another few attempts gained on those behind. He was matched in the 35s by Bianca and Braxton, who gained a little bit on the group in front, but only very marginally. Stavros Mercedes, who's very much going quickly at the moment. So is Yukabeka Lalu, a couple of times in the low 35s, but he's just out on the soft compound tyres at the moment. See what he does this time round behind Petr Berlak, who also does a low 35.3 that time from Lalu. There's Berlak in the race clutch entry. Unfortunately down in 12th place today, and for all of those outside the top 8, it's been a very lonely existence, I'm afraid to say, ever since the opening lap of the race.
But these are the tough races of the season that you have to get through. Unfortunately, Dennis Jordan over the last few years has had quite a few of these. Remember back to last year, he struggled in a couple of races, and then the year before in 22, where it was his teammate Alex Siebel who eventually went for the championship. But Dennis Jordan, after the first few rounds of the season, was looking strong. He won the second race of the season at Malaysia, but then just seemed to struggle in a few races, got caught up in a couple of things as well. So it is one of those things that happens every now and again. You get these bad races, but you do have to keep pushing through. And we all know that Dennis Jordan, multiple-time race winner in this championship, he'll probably be able to get one later in the season as well. Petr Berlak, I know he's only doing a one-off here, but he's still a world champion, and you'd still expect him to be up the front if it was a clean race.
We certainly would. Dennis Jordan hasn't finished lower than 5th position in a World Championship that he's taken part in all the races of. He was only here for one round in 2019, and it wasn't this one, at the Singapore Grand Prix.
And do you want a fun fact? I'm pretty sure that was the Hungarian Grand Prix in 2019.
Was?
And I'm pretty sure he got disqualified for using the wrong tyres.
Not sure about that, because on the results sheet it says 7th place. That still stands. So
was it his team? Well, it might have been his teammate. Was it Dan Brewer? Was it for Edge eSports? If you're looking
I'll try and find out if anyone was disqualified. Sander Callas was disqualified from that race for tyre infringements, and so was Burakov as well. But
yeah,
no?
that was.
Brewer was as well. You're right. Yeah,
yeah.
Just to the bottom.
I just remember it was Edge eSports because I'm pretty sure Dennis did it for that one as well. Yeah, that was because basically they came in as a reserve, and in that year we had the 5 compounds on the car, but they were all selectable in the game. But there was only 3 nominated for each. Yes. But they didn't know about the nominations, so they used the tyres that were not nominated, if you know what I mean.
Yes, I do see what you mean. The only team that season, by the way, to take one singular race win off of Avid Chronic Racing, who won all of them that time around.
Including Robin Panzar. Didn't he get a race win?
It was Petr Berlak who won that season.
Yeah, but I meant, didn't Robin Panzer also get a win?
No. Not in 2019, no.
Must have been second.
Yeah, a few seconds. It's a couple of second places. We're going down the history books, dear me. We've got a race on.
And talking of that, actually, 2019, Petr Berlak, to bring some context, obviously Petr Berlak, you were saying, won this race last time that we came here because they did a one-stop. He and his good friend Mo Patel, they did a one-stop strategy using the hard compounds, whereas ACR went for the double medium, I guess it would have been, on the 2-stop strategy. But even though they were pushing, and as you said, Martin Gosby earlier got the fastest lap, but they weren't able to chase down that extra pit stop. Yeah,
they were quite a long way away. Panzar was leading the charge that day, by the way, of 2 stoppers at 9.3 seconds behind Berlak and right behind Patel, who he couldn't quite get past towards the end of the day. I do feel like, though, overtaking is going to be easier for those who are trying to come through today, because it's shaping up at the moment to be a similar situation to what you just described, in that we've got some drivers on newer tyres chasing those who are on some older ones. So while there's not a sort of pit stop number difference, I don't think there's going to be anyway, there may be a difference in terms of tyre life and tyre compound in the late stage of this race. So I just wonder whether this is going to be a similar situation, but a more appetising one for those who are trying to make the overtakes late on.
Yeah, I certainly agree with that, because Bok has done double soft, so he's definitely got to go probably hard looking at that. Whereas McGorgy is going to be the opposite. He's probably going to go to the soft. Well, it actually depends on how long he goes. So it'll probably be the medium. So he will be chasing down on the faster tyres. And I'm really interested to see what SimRacing does, because is he going to go back to the softs that he dragged out in that first stint, or is he going to go to the hards, stay on the mediums again? He definitely has a lot of options as well. So I do like the fact that this year you can basically do whatever tyres in whatever order. It just depends exactly where you are on the track, how you want to play it. Because Bok has played it perfectly. He went on the softs and he's been able to pull out this gap. Because if he went on the hards or the mediums, he would have just been sat ahead of SimRacing here in this train. But now at least he's getting a gap. He's opening himself up for later in the race.
And unlike other championships and other seasons as well, you're not necessarily restricted with the tyres in a way that, you know, they're going to run out of life at some point throughout the stint. You're restricted in a way that, you know, in this example, the hard tyres aren't quick enough, or the soft tyres are better in whatever situation, because we saw everybody come in within the span of about 5 laps, despite all 3 compounds being used at the start of this race. Based on that, something similar may happen here pretty shortly as well, in that everybody may well pit in a short space of time, despite the fact that the 3 different compounds are being used in the top 3 places.
Yeah, it's really funny how it works with the softs, because obviously they're faster, but if you drive slightly slower, basically what we saw actually with Bok there, he managed to go 19 laps on the softs, but because he was able to go slow at the beginning, he kept them. So even though he was undercut, he was then able to do a couple of quali laps. I think it was 3 laps later he stayed out compared to McGorgy, but those 3 laps, because he was able to keep the soft tyres, he was then able to use the pace then. So he didn't use the pace in the early part of the stint when people normally would. He was then able to use it at the end and make the overcut work. So you have to be a bit tactical with how you're driving. It's not just about doing as fast as lap as you can straight away. It's all about thinking, you know, 10 laps later in the stint.
Yeah, it's a real mind game almost at this stage as we approach half distance in the Singapore Grand Prix. Still a very long way to go here this afternoon in the 4th round of the Formula SimRacing World Championship for 2024. Still 6 rounds to go, and in 2 weeks it's the British Grand Prix to round out the first half of the season. But we continue our fortnightly races right the way up to the San Marino Grand Prix, which will be round 6 this season. Then it will get a little bit more sporadic towards the end, but keeping things mostly every 2 weeks or so. Hopefully no too big gap in the races, so that we can get the season sort of with a nice rhythm to it, and hopefully a good finish to it as well, for the first time in a couple of seasons since we saw that great finale between Colin Spork and Alex Siebel back in 2022. This is Janus Braxton, who's on the back of this train as well, and you can just tell that the speed is increasing at the front of the race, because there's slightly less people in touch now. Biancaluna and Braxton are struggling to stay with the pace now.
Yes, so a few laps ago we saw mid-35s from Bok and low 36s from Simic and McGorgy. Now they're all doing 35.8s, so they've come into the middle. You know, a couple of them have slowed down a little bit, and a couple of them have sped up a bit to meet in the middle and start doing the exact same lap times. So as you're saying, the speed is certainly going up it. And to be fair, Bragstock, I mean, there is only a few tenths behind, about 4 tenths behind that. But it's enough that obviously they're just slightly losing touch with Biancalilla as well, who hasn't been able to keep that pace. But the 2 RAF cars, and then, of course, the race clutch of McGorgy as well, they are staying close together. So they all have that similar speed as they just try and judge that gap to Bok, who's got up to about 4.5 seconds. So I reckon that's probably the biggest that we're going to see this gap go.
Looks like it, doesn't it? Because the gaps are starting to normalise now in terms of lap times. Everybody inside the top 3 did a 35.8 on that previous lap, which again is really remarkable considering they're on 3 different tyre compounds put on 3 different laps. But anyway, that's just the story of the race that we've seen so far. How quickly is Yannick Bok going to cut his losses here? Because he's only been out there for 10 laps. 31 laps remaining as we now officially hit the halfway mark, around 150 kilometres to go here this afternoon. How much longer is Bok going to leave this before coming in and putting on whatever tyre he is going to put on? Because it may be the last tyre change he makes today.
Yeah, it depends if he's going to commit to the 2-stop and stay out, or if he is going to just pull a blinder on everyone and go for a 3-stop. Considering how long he went in that first stint, I would assume, and I know he's technically my teammate, I've got no idea what strategy he's actually going to do. I did not keep up with what the WC guys were practicing, which is always a good one to try and find out in the race. But it looks like he did actually put a couple of tenths in the end, in the beginning part of this lap. So he's not over in terms of that. You would assume he could still at least try and eke it out, because what he could do now is, obviously, as he loses the pace, just manage that, tenth by tenth, and just eat into that gap. So overall, he might end up just being ahead of Ewan again by the time we get to the next stint, but at least he's been out the front with no pressure.
Well, we'll see what he elects to do, as Jens Brakstok has elected to make a pit stop. He's back down to 9th now. Only loses 1 or 2 places, but he's in clean air, crucially, and on the hard tyres. Now, is that a run to the end of the race for him, or are we seeing something a little bit, just a bridging tyre, if you like, to get to the next stage of the race before the final stop that he is going to make here today, as Bok comes over the line to complete another lap? This is the battle now, as Matthew Williams is behind Danny van der Neet. This is not a battle I was particularly expecting to come up, actually, but Williams should make his way through, you would imagine, as these guys are just losing a bit of time now to the top 5, who are starting to get away. Even Manuel Biancalilla is putting distance into these two.
Certainly is, and they're just, I say ever so slightly. They lost a second on that previous lap, so they really are starting to, to sort of show their sort of tyre wear, I guess, it's coming into it as the stint goes on. The top few drivers, they're keeping the pace going, whereas these guys are starting to slow down a bit. They have been out there for 17 laps on the medium, so to be fair, that's a solid number, and I wouldn't be surprised if we do get pit stops fairly soon for those who are going for a 3-stop. It depends, as I said, if they want to eke it out, which may mean that we have a lot of hards still left to be used if they want to make the lap count. Yeah,
exactly. 62 laps these days rather than 61, which we used to have with the longer layout. Slightly shortened distance means a slightly lengthened race. Out through that section now, missing that part to the right hand side where they'd previously go under the bridge. Well, it's both called a tunnel, isn't it, sort of, and they would get themselves through a slightly fiddly chicane. To be honest, it's probably a good thing that they keep the speed up there instead now and run all the way down to turn 16 without interruption. They go over the line again. It's speed just going out of this race slightly. Low 36s from Bok now, but still a high 35 that time from Joni Simicic, as there's a couple more stops here. Danny van der Neet and Matthew Williams both make their way into the pit lane. By the way, Jens Brakstok is setting personal best sectors out on his own at the moment.
Oh, so maybe coming back into this race with that bit of an answer. Oh, just seen Danny van der Neet's got a pen. Danny van der Neet must have sped in the pit lane. He got a penalty on pit exit, so either in or out, he sped, and that is going to destroy that battle, that close battle that he was having with Matt Williams as well, because he's going to have to come back in, and because say you got a penalty for cut tracks and there's a stop go or something, you just add it to your next stop, whereas here he's going to have to come back through the pit lane again needlessly.
Exactly. Don't reckon it was white line infringement, do you? Out of pit lane, or was it immediately as he came out?
Oh, is Mazidis is having some problems, because he didn't need to let those drivers through. That was for position, and he's just lost a few places.
I don't know what that's all about, to be honest. We'll have a look and see if there's any answers here on the replay for Stavros Mazidis. This is earlier on in the lap. Well, he's a long way ahead of them, isn't he? So what goes on here? He's done well to keep it at the wall, very well in fact. And now he's got the very precarious position of trying to get back going again without interrupting anybody. Oh, you lucky boy. Well,
He found a gap.
He found a gap, exactly. He could say lucky, he could say very well timed, but he's made his way back out there again. This is what happened to Danny Van Den Eek. Now, did he speed? Did he go over the white line? We'll find out here as he makes his way out of pit lane. He's within the white lines to me, so that would indicate speeding.
He couldn't quite.
Oh, that's awkward.
That was very awkward on his pit entry. So yeah, I couldn't quite see. Maybe he did just slightly speed on the entry. Unfortunately, we couldn't quite see on that one. But it's actually not the ideal place or the ideal situation for the Netrex team there. Just having a couple of issues as Mozidis also, this back to live pictures, comes out of the pit lane just ahead of Jukapeka Lalu, who seems to be always on the soft tyres, still out there now.
Yep, so there's the battle for 12th position. Stavros Mozidis just ahead of Jukapeka Lalu, who now uses the DRS down in towards turn 7, and the slight defence, hint of a defence from Stavros Mozidis keeps Jukapeka Lalu behind him for now. Still the top 5 are within 10 seconds of one another, and it's Yannick Bock who is leading the way, and chasing was Owen McGorgy. Now he's into pit lane though for Race Dutch, and this could be the last stop of his afternoon as we approach the 2/3 distance of the race. Will it be another set of hard tyres for the Race Dutch driver, or will we see a bit of a difference? It's back to the median for Owen McGorgy, and he will be maybe looking to push on those and get ahead of Jurny Simičić. Where's Janis Braksok going to be? Because he's been going quickly out on his own, and there he is. Janis Braksok could well be in this race with an undercut on the hard tyres.
Definitely so, but surely they're making a pit stop again. I mean, this is a long way to go still, 24 laps. Braksok has already been out for 4 laps now. That'll be 30 laps he would need to do. So I'm not convinced that these guys are going to the end just yet. So maybe it is a 3-stop race after all. I was just assuming of how long they went in that first stint, because everyone seemed to go fairly long. But it seems like maybe we're seeing these guys, and even if they do go to the end, they're going to be really, really slow, surely.
Well, yeah. I'm not entirely sure what's the strategy here, to be honest, because it felt to me in the first stint anyway as if people were shortening stints just because they kind of needed to for track position purposes, and not because their tyres were running out of juice, for want of a better term. It felt like there was still life left in those tyres, but just race situations meant that they couldn't continue on with them. And maybe that's the same here again now as Manuel Biancalilla comes in. If I was him, I probably would have come in with Janis Braksok, to be honest with you, but he'll definitely be behind the Hungarian now as the tied championship leader makes his way in. We forget, of course, that Yannick Bock is also the tied championship leader, and should he win today, he really gives himself an advantage.
He certainly does, because Grangfist as well, who's not too far behind, is of course going to be struggling with that one. Jake Dennehan is not here today. Both of them not scoring points. This could be very interesting, as here is Biancalilla coming out of the pit lane, and of course just being ahead of Dennis Jordan. But fortunately for the Ferrari fans, Dennis Jordan is soon to make a pit stop.
Sorry, look how far Braksok is ahead of him. They were together a moment ago. Now look at that gap there. I don't really understand why Biancalilla didn't come in at the same time, unless Biancalilla is intending to go on those hard to compound tyres, whereas Braksok is intending to stop again. I don't really see why Biancalilla would hand him a 5-second advantage like that.
So he did 22 laps just now on the hards. So going up to 25, I guess that is probably more doable. Whereas what did Brakshaw do? Brakshaw did 16, 15, 15 hard, and he's going to hards again. So yeah, Brakshaw definitely on the 3-stop strategy with this. So that is why. So Bianca has stayed out longer, because I think there's still one more stop to go. He's already got 6 seconds, but he's going to need to triple that if he wants to make up the time for the stop.
Yeah, well, that solves that one then for those two. And Biancalilla still in a comfortable position. You reckon that Owen McGorgy might well be the net race leader at the moment as well, as he is pushing very hard, maybe too hard, into the final chicane. Purple through the middle sector on this time around, and will just stand back in a couple of moments' time, because his car will be coming over the line very quickly indeed. A 33.5, 2.3 seconds quicker than Yannick Bock that time.
Wow, that's very fast. So he's definitely not going to the end on these tyres. So it depends how long the other three want to stay out up ahead. So we have soft, medium, and hard. So the three drivers, 1, 2, 3. So they're all soft in that first stint. They've gone completely different in the middle stint. So are they going to go completely different at the end? And we are yet to find out, because if they did 19 laps on soft in that first stint, as you said, they could probably go a lot longer, and especially on the mediums and hard. That is why I'm thinking they're going for the 2. And then McGorgy, with how much he's pushing, needs to do another stop. And it didn't work. The extra stop didn't work in Hockenheim. And on a track where you can't overtake like this, is it going to not work again?
Puzzling strategic races like this one, I've got to say, from a commentary point of view, are quite a headache. Got to be honest with you. Trying to figure out what the hell is going on in this race is a bit of a mystery for the moment, but it's just one of those days where you're not entirely sure. I've not been convinced for any of the 38 laps yet who's really winning. You see what I mean? Obviously, Yannick Bock is leading the race, but who's really winning in this race? It's a very puzzling conundrum at the moment.
That is a very good point. As we come to the end of lap 38 for McGorgy, on to 39, of course, for the leaders, and they stay out. So they did 19 last time. We're now on to 20. Is it? Yeah, this is lap 20 for Bock on these soft tyres. Of course, less fuel, so you would expect to go a bit longer. But also, this is Bock. Remember, we thought they were saving in that first stint, which is how they got to 19 laps. Bock has been on his own, somewhat pushing to get that gap, and he's still out there. So I think you're right in terms of that first stint. They probably ended up stopping earlier due to the situation, more so than the tyres.
Maybe. Bock is... Well, here's a question for you. Do you think Bock has been pushing a bit harder on these soft compound tyres than Simicic was pushing on his in the first part of the race? He said at the time that Simicic was holding himself back and then did unleash a little bit in those last 2 laps before he pitted, didn't he? But what about Yannick Bock here? Because it feels like he's been going pretty hard all day so far.
Yes, I would say Bock was pushing harder in stint 2 than Yone was in stint 1. But
they've done about the same laps now on these tyres, so it's not making sense anymore.
Yeah. So maybe there is just more life in the tyres than we're expecting. I mean, I myself, I'm not going to lie, I couldn't do more than 14, 15 laps on the soft. So these guys are, miles better and able to just hold on. And he continues further on. So with the laps left to the end, he's definitely on a 2 stop, because it does make sense from this point, considering how long that he's gone. Has someone come into the pit lane? Yeah, Michi Hoyer has come down. So despite being on the hards, he's pit earlier again. So the softer tyres are going longer than the hards in this race.
Yeah, as you say, situational really, and hard tyres again. Hoyer absolutely making sure he can go to the end on these tyres, but he can't think about McGorgy very much. He races on through. Another 33 from McGorgy that time round. 2.8 seconds quicker than Yannick Bock. He's really starting to lose time. Now, here's a theory as to why Bock has been able to go for a similar amount of time as Simicic despite pushing harder. I reckon Simicic came in just before the point where the softs would start to dip and they would start to lose time. So he used those tyres aggressively in the 2 laps. He stayed out longer than those who pitted before him, like McGorgy, Biancalula, for example. He used the tyres in those 2 laps and then pitted immediately. He didn't wait around for the period where the softs would dip below the other compounds, whereas Bock has built a lead and now he's sort of using that lead as he dips below the rest of the compounds in his soft tyre speed for the moment.
That is that's a good point. He's sort of gone past the cliff a little bit.
Yeah.
In terms of at least, I mean, he's still going at some decent speed actually. Actually, I say that last lap, maybe he has hit the cliff this time around. But he's probably wants to go long enough that he uses the mediums, because clearly he's favouring the softer tyres tonight. So he's probably going to go long enough that he can take the mediums at the end rather than going onto the hard tyres as Simicic follows him in. McGorgy will take the lead as he's already into this final chicane, but this rest of the gap he needs to chase down, because he needs the final stop himself, we are pretty sure. But of course he will then be on the soft tyres most likely, or at least another set of the mediums, and pushing hard.
He seems to be enjoying the mediums, to be honest. 34-1, though, from that last time round. The others a long, long way behind. Medium compound tyres then for Yannick Bock, and it's going to be hard for Simicic, as Bock, he needs to get ahead of Braxock here. If he's going to win this race, then it's very crucial he gets ahead of Braxock, not because he's particularly racing him on circuit right now, but just for clean air. Yannick Bock would really rather stay ahead of the Hungarian, and does. Through turn 5, DRS for the Brabham eSports driver immediately. Does he feel that he needs to get through for his race? Not particularly on the way towards turn 7, so Yannick Bock has the dream situation. He's even got a rear gunner behind him in the lead of this race, so what will be the lead?
Yes, you said it perfectly there. Bock, if he got stuck behind Braxock, he would have lost time in the battle with McGorgy, he would have lost time in the battle with Simicic, so this is the perfect scenario. And just for clarification, Braxock and McGorgy, well, Braxock definitely, McGorgy most definitely as well, needs to come in for another stop in this race with the amount that he was pushing on those medium tyres. So they need another stop. McGorgy has, almost, that's about a third, or maybe coming up to half of a pit stop already, whereas Braxock is a full pit stop behind these drivers. So he's not going to be in a shout of a podium, really. But McGorgy might just, with the speed that he's going to have at the end.
Well, is he going to extend that margin from 7.5 seconds any further is the next question, I think. 21 laps to go at the moment. The middle sector from Bock was at 0.7 of a second slower, but are his tyres really up to speed by that point? I'm not entirely sure. Simicic is going quickly on the outlap here, though. He's pushing on these hard compound tyres, and maybe that's why he went for them as opposed to the mediums, because maybe Simicic can really abuse these tyres in the final third of the race, whereas Bock will have to at least start slowly.
Yes, that is, I think, what is going on, because Simicic lost that gap. It was down to about 2.5 seconds or so, wasn't it, by the time they came in? It's similar now. But now he needs to push. If he went on the mediums and covered off Bock in that regard, in terms of grip, then he obviously would have basically just followed him to the end. On the hards, maybe technically slightly slower, but he should be able to push them to the end, whereas Bock is going to have to be a little bit careful.
You can throw what I just said out the window, by the way. Bock just did a fastest personal best third sector and first sector, so he's not he's not waiting around. People are pretty convinced, Cam, that McGorgy's not pitting again. I agree with you that he is, but people are quite convinced.
He's going very fast.
Yeah, he's going a bit too quickly for my liking to be on medium. I mean, he picked with about 25, 26 laps to go as well.
Yes, I agree with that one. To be honest, I don't think he's going to be able to get to the end. Considering, what was it, a 33? Yeah, 33.5 he did.
Twice.
I mean, prove me wrong, but I'm not sure about that.
No, I'm not sure either, to be honest with you. 34.3 is his fastest lap so far today, by the way. It's not the fastest lap, I don't think. Excuse me, 30... Yeah, I said the wrong way around, didn't I? 33.5 is what I meant to say. Did it a couple of times during that race. He's now in the 34s, 34.0 that time around. And that is one of the only 33s in the field. None of the others inside the sort of race contending section of the order, if you like, have been to those heights just yet. Yannick Bock set his personal best on that last lap, so he's not waiting around clearly, but it was 0.2 of a second slower than Jurnej Simicic and Michi Hoyer, who both went at the same speed pretty much that last time round. It was even a bit slower than Janusz Braxock, who's still right behind him for second position, but it was nearly a second slower than Owen McGorgy, who's still flying in the lead of this race.
Certainly is, but I just can't work out how this is going to finish in terms of the gaps. So McGorgy, some people think he's going to the end. We think he might be coming in. It's sort of a 20-odd seconds for the pit stop, so he's almost got that. But then he's going to have to chase down another, let's say, 12-ish seconds at this moment in time in that final stint. So he's basically going to have to be doing a second a lap, plus then overtaking Hoyer, Simicic, Bock, maybe Biancalilla as well, to get to that stage. Then for Simicic, of course, he needs to chase down this 3-second gap to Yannick. But Yannick is on the softer tyres and has had arguably the best tyre wear so far, able to hold on to that lead in the previous stint. So I'm a bit confused still how it's going to work out, but that is why, of course, we come and watch this this racing. But McGorgy still faster, extending that gap. despite Bok doing a personal best.
Yeah, it's personal best going around all over the place right now, including for Dennis Jordan, who's still running 13th back in the pack for the moment. He's just put some medium tyres on. He's behind Yukapeka Lalu in 12th place, still battling outside the top 10 for those positions. But as you say, Bok still going on personal best and sort of reverses the 2/10 loss he had on the previous lap to Simoncic and sort of puts those 2 cents back again where he will feel they belong. 18 laps to go at the end of this one then. Noah McGorgy is still building a lead. A 34.3 was nearly half a second quicker than Bok on that last lap as well. So I just wonder how long he's going to leave this again here, McGorgy. He's been out there for nearly 10 laps now. He needs to go probably at least another 5 or so, I would say, 4 or 5. But then, as soon as he starts to dip below the speed of Bok with his tyres, I think it might be worth pitting in again if he's going to, and then trying to rip through the field as quickly as possible. But that's a lot of overtaking to do.
Thing is, he's still got 18 laps to go from here, or 17, I guess. So if he only goes another few laps, even gets that down to say 15, that's still a decent amount in terms of pushing. If he gets it even less than that, then he's not going to have enough laps on the new tyres to chase down. So, certainly an interesting one. Or, he's got a 10-second gap now, can he just go snail pace for 18 laps and still do a 2-stop?
I don't know. I really don't know. It's all well and good not stopping to not lose all those places, but it's also no good having square tyres at the end, is it really? So, I'm not entirely sure what the solution is for McGorgy at the moment. He's leading the way at least, and that's the positive he can take from this moment. But for just how longer, he's gained more time on that last lap. Another 4 attempts put into Bok, another 2 put into Simoncic and Hoyer, who set his personal best, by the way, did the German on that last lap. Where does Jonas Braxuk come into this? I guess he's going to pit in again, but does he not want to use his speed? He's stuck behind Bok at the moment, who's supposedly going with a vision to getting to the end of the race. Brockstock is with a vision of just destroying tyres as quickly as possible, to go as quickly as possible, and surely he's not able to do that if he's stuck here.
So Bragstock's done 16.15, so he's probably going to be coming in the next sort of 3 laps or so, and then I would assume at that rate going to a set of the mediums rather than the soft to the end. So I think he's just going to go out of this window as such. And to that regard then, the gap between Bok and Simoncic has pretty much stayed the same over the last handful of laps. So I wonder what the 2 rFactors can do about Bok, because he's looking pretty strong this race so far, and Simoncic doesn't seem to be overly keen in chasing him down.
Yeah, he's not making inroads for now. And all of a sudden, Yannick Bok is really showing himself to be very strong in the Formula SimRacing World Championship this season. Currently tied championship leader with Manuel Biancalilla, and it looks like, by all accounts, he might well be taking that mantle as his own, almost no matter which way this one goes. So not been around in the World Championship for too long, was 8th place in 2023 with just the 1 podium to his name at the British Grand Prix. That's coming up in 2 weeks' time. He'll look forward to going back there, but he's already got 2 podiums this season. So can he go one better and get on the top step for the very first time? This is Matthew Williams, who has been battling with Manuel Biancalilla for a little while here for 6th position. Slides his way through the Singapore sling, which is just 1 corner these days, of course, and will attempt to get his way past Biancalilla, but he won't do it like that.
Do you want to feel old, by the way?
No, not really, but go on.
So you said the Singapore sling 1 corner. I'm pretty sure the last time it was 3 was 2012, I want to say.
I thought it was more further ago than that.
I'm pretty sure it's 2013 when they changed that, and that's already now 11 years ago.
Yep.
We are
Great.
old.
Thank you for that. So, I mean, the circuit, is it better for it? Maybe.
Oh yeah, that fast
so?
left hand is so fun now. It's
Is it
really, really on the limit?
I don't know. I prefer the comedy aspect, to be honest. Of the,
That's true. That's true.
Of the triple.
That was a ridiculous. I mean, who signed that off?
I don't know.
Genuinely.
I don't know. Someone not particularly with credentials in motorsport, I would have thought.
I understand it's the safety reason, but you see how much space there that we've got now, and the reason why we have that corner the way it is now. But I guess they were just a little bit more cautious the first time going there.
But also, do you remember at the time this race was introduced, it was a really left field, exciting new development, wasn't it, to have night racing at the time? It was
First
like,
one.
wow.
And it's still got the Instagram handle of F1 Night Race.
It is
Because-
it should be the only night race. Sorry.
Yeah, it was supposed
Unpopular
to be. It was supposed to be one, and then of course the trend.
Now they all
kicks
are.
off.
Yeah. Soon Silverstone have started installing lights and all sorts. We'll have night races everywhere. But anyway, hopefully it doesn't come to that. Meanwhile, lap 47 with 15 to go in the Singapore Grand Prix. Fastest lap, or personal best, I should say, from Yannick Bock, who's now starting to stretch his legs, and Janus Braksuk starting to struggle. You mentioned that he has only done 15, 16 lap stints in the past. Well, that is starting to show now because he's getting up to that region again, and Juraj Simoncic is going to have to make a very important pass very soon if Braksuk doesn't make his way into pit lane. There is the face of the four-time former SimRacing World Champion, the reigning champion from 2023, and very helpfully for him, Janus Braksuk comes in.
Yep, perfect timing, because another lap or so and Simoncic would have actually lost time as such behind, and as expected goes on to a set of the medium compound tyres for a 14-lap stint to the end. And just looking at the previous laps, we're getting close to that crossover period between McGorgy and Bock, although Bock did slow down a little bit interestingly on that previous lap. So it's getting to that point where McGorgy should really think about the stop. How many laps has he done so far? So he's done 12. Yes, if he goes another one lap, then that'll be 50-50 split of the laps to the end, the 26 into 13-13, which would make sense if he goes medium-medium, or is he going to stay a little bit longer and then go soft, because he is going to need to do some big driving, some big moves in that final stint.
To be honest, I don't see a reason for him to come in at the moment. He was still 3 tenths quicker than Bock last time, 7 tenths quicker than Simoncic, who admittedly was stuck behind Braksuk for the last half of the lap, but he's still going fast, so I don't see why McGorgy would come in for now at all. He's starting to get to that region as well where he might be able to just not have to overtake Matthew Williams or Manuel Biancalura. Maybe not Biancalura actually, but Williams is starting to struggle, as that was a slide from McGorgy, really pushing the envelope out of turn number 17, and now through the final couple of turns. What is the lap time this time around? Still comfortably in the 34s for Ryan McGorgy.
Yeah, I really actually want to kind of see him prove us wrong and go to the end at this pace. Because remember how fast he was in qualifying, by 3 tenths, remember.
Yeah.
So he's definitely got some speed around this track. But the way that he's pushing, I don't know. The body language doesn't tell me that. But imagine if he does 26 laps like this and he wins by 10 plus seconds. That would be quite something.
That would be absolutely gobsmacking, I've got to say, if he pulls that off. I think that it'd be even surprising if he goes and wins from this situation on these tyres anyway, I feel. But anyway, into the pit lane for Matthew Williams, who's on the soft compound tyres. Not a pit stop I was especially expecting, but anyway, I'm sure he was. He's in 7th now, just ahead of Dennis Jordan, who will struggle to get ahead of him in this race, I'd imagine. Petter Burlak also makes his way into pit lane in those fights for the lower top 10 places. But it's really about the top 5 now, as Burlak makes his way out, side by side, in fact, with the blue Netrex GP car, and that's up to 9th place, and quite a congested part of the order as well.
I'll tell you what, look where Danny Van Den Niet was earlier, up behind Williams, and now Petter Burlak is right behind him. So Burlak has had some decent speed in this race. I guess also for Dennis Jordan as well, because he's right behind Matt Williams, and both of them going to the end. So it is a shame actually that we did lose quite a few drivers really out of contention. And of course Siebel was right next to them as well.
McGorgy's in, 13 laps to go. He split the last half of this race down the middle, so 2 13-lap stints to the end. You'd imagine this will be medium tyres again for the race leader and race winner from the Australian Grand Prix. Up on the jacks he goes. He stays with the yellow striped tyres. Yannick Bock will go through to the lead on those same compound of tyres just as they begin to stretch their legs. A personal best from Yannick Bock there. They're both in the mid-34s actually, of Bock and Simoncic. Hoyer not quite on the pace, neither was Biancalura, and so McGorgy will hope they are easy overtakes to make as he tries to chase down for the race lead. 12.5 seconds to get there.
12 seconds, 4 positions. Interesting times. We know he's got the speed to do it though. He made 10 seconds in that previous stint, but that was with basically no overtaking. I think he might not be able to get to the win, but third place is still definitely a proper possibility. Depends how much Biancalilla also wants to battle this. We've seen how hard he was earlier down in towards turn 7. We saw how hard he was with Bok on the last lap in Hockenheim. We know he likes to defend these positions, so it's not going to be easy by any means.
Simičić, by the way, was really starting to get moving there. So McGorgy pitted just as he started to lose time. It was the previous flying lap to the one where he came in, where he did start to really lose some time. And even Bok will be a little bit worried about the speed that Simičić showed, but he did respond on the previous one. Another round of times coming here at the end of lap 50. 12 to go at the end of this one in a very absorbing Singapore Grand Prix that's about to have the action to end it off. It's a 34.8 from Bok. Simičić 3 tenths quicker. It might not even be about McGorgy today. Is it going to be about the current top two?
Oh, I think it will be when it comes to it. And Simičić has been at this 2.5 second, 3 second gap for quite a while now. Is he going to have enough to chase him down? He's been on those hard tyres, of course, basically the same amount of time as Yannick. And he only went there to have that durability. It's now this second half of the stint that they're coming into where he hopes that he gets the advantage. And that's going to be the important factor for him. As Matt Williams, purple time of a 33.4. As Braxock as well, 34.0. The fast tyres are coming in now. But of course, they are way too far behind for this battle.
They are at this stage. Maybe between themselves for a podium place. We'll wait and see on that one. There is Owen McGorgy. What role will Michi Hoyer especially play in the final part of this race? Because he could really help out his teammate if these final laps into the hairpin at turn 13, which really kicked things all off today. A big crash down there meant that there was a big split in the field, and effectively only the front 5 or so got away, and it's the front 5 we're currently seeing on our screen right now, albeit in a different order. We go on board with Owen McGorgy now, who's absolutely flying. A purple middle sector again, 38.9 from him. 1.3 seconds quicker than Yannick Bok in that sector alone. Now he'll be slowed up slightly by those two in front, and he's got to get through here quickly.
I'm starting to change my opinion now. If he's that fast, maybe he is able to do this. It depends how quickly he can get past Biancalilla and Hoyer. If they weren't there, he would definitely catch down to Simičić with enough time. But the fact that these two cars are there, let's see how long it takes him to overtake.
Oh, look at his traction as well off of turn 3. Through 4 they're going. He just opens up 5, gets close to that wall on the left-hand side. He bobbles over the curb a little bit, and it's a better exit from Biancalilla, but he might not give this one too much thought. Owen McGorgy will race on past, down in towards turn 7, and Owen McGorgy is in 4th place, easily so. And now Michi Hoyer has got to be dispatched of next.
Oh, this is getting close, it's getting tense. As ever, the advantage, that's the word, the advantage that he has is going to become less and less as the stint goes on, but it will still be more. But this is really where he needs to make the big time up, and as he's having to do these overtakes, that is being hindered just a little bit. But, Hoyer defensive to the inside, he's not going to be able to defend in the next one.
He could see that coming, just as I did. And he pulled it over to the right-hand side. That did Michi Hoyer to defend for his teammate in some part here. McGorgy goes to the outside again. He'll just rip round the outside. Oh, what a move that's going to be. Down at turn 14. He'll get inside the inside for 15, and he'll be through. Owen McGorgy up to 3rd place. 9 seconds from the lead now with 10 laps to go. And by the way, his previous lap was the best of anyone, even on the medium tyres, a 32.8. Put 2 seconds into Bok. He'll continue to put time into the leading 2 as he's now on the podium again.
Let's see how this one goes down. He's pushing hard. Of course, this time had to make the overtakes and was still a 10th faster than Bok up ahead. Of course, helped by the DRS there, but then still having to go offline a bit, overtaking Hoyer, and the speed is still good, but he's going to have to do full push to the end because he wants to give himself enough laps, enough opportunities to try and get past the leading pair, which, by the way, Simičić is getting closer to Bok. Maybe the 3-stop is the way to go as well.
This is such an absorbing race. McGorgy faster again in that first sector, but only by tenths of a second. Peanuts, really. He's going to need a little bit more than that if he wants to close in by the end of the race. 1.8 seconds between the front two as well. Simitic really bearing down on Bock. And I wonder as well at what point the experience comes into it. Ewan Simitic has so much experience winning races in the Formula SimRacing World Championship. He's won 4 championships, for goodness sake. Yannick Bock has never even stood on the top step of the podium before. How is that going to play in a role here as confidence just begins to be a factor here? Yannick Bock is certainly beginning to not crumble under the pressure, but he is losing time now.
Yeah, Bock certainly does know what he's doing around this track. He's won it, as I mentioned, in Super League. He obviously 2-time Super League champion as well. Very similar in many ways with the championship. So it's not like he's a rookie as such, but it's definitely in terms of FSR, he's new to that, and he's come to Evo this year. Did struggle with TX3, didn't he? You were mentioning earlier, just one podium. So he's come here, he's got a new set of teammates, and it's really working out for him. But can he hold on from the 4-time champion? It looks like Yerne is really starting to push as he's seeing the lap times in his mirrors, and it was another 1.5 seconds last lap from McGorgy.
Yeah, not bad at all. Well, 2.5 seconds on Bock anyway, 2nd on Simitic, as this all just closes together. Ewan Simitic, by the way, has got a 50% win record around here at the Singapore Grand Prix. In 4 appearances, he's won twice, most recently in 2018, excuse me. Perlak was the year afterwards, but he's not had a bad time of things in this Grand Prix generally. Looking to return to winning ways here for the first time in 6 years. Yannick Bock has never won a Formula SimRacing World Championship race, despite the fact this is his 2nd full season in the series. Been on the podium once before, but never on, once before this season, 3 times before now, but never on the top step. 1.1 seconds now, the margin, as Simitic bears down on them. But there is a case to be made here for them not fighting for a little while. If they do, McGorgy's going to be even more sure of catching them both.
But then Simitic wants to push to get as many laps under his belt before McGorgy catches. So it's really a game of cat and mouse here. And it's funny how the strategies have worked out. At one point, I did not see McGorgy having the speed to chase down. And now I think he's almost slam dunk to at least have an opportunity to win this race. So it changes very quickly around here. The issue is that, especially Bobby on those mediums compared to the hards of Simitic, he really is going to struggle in the final 3-4 laps or so. And we're still 3-4 laps away from that point.
Yeah, still a few laps to go in this race. It feels like Simicic's hit a bit of a brick wall here. He can't quite get any closer than what he's managing at the moment to Yannick Bock in the lead of this race. It's just hovering at about a second behind, but maybe once he gets that DRS he'll be helped along a little bit, although it's only a help on the way down towards turn 7 and around turn 6 through that sort of first straight after the start-finish line that you get around this circuit. He's now only got 3.5 seconds ahead of McGorgy, who is catching them and giving us a grandstand finish to the day. It looks like, by the way, Yannick Bock is going to be the championship leader by the end of today. Jake Dennehan DNSing, Jan Granqvist DNFing, means that they'll be out of the picture, and McGorgy and Simitic will overtake those two to go 3rd and 4th, maybe behind or ahead of, depending on how it goes, Manuel Biancalula, who will lose that shared championship lead status with Yannick Bock by the looks of things, whatever happens, although there's still 7 laps to go here and plenty can still go on. McGorgy's still in the mid-33s, so that is a positive sign for him. As soon as I think he starts to slip and slide from those mid-33s and starts to get into the 34s, I think the tyres are quickly going to go away from him, as they did in that first stint.
Indeed, and at that point as well, he won't be gaining quite so much. So he's going to go down even more to the last couple of laps, which I think is going to go to anyway, because the difference is becoming less and less as the stint goes on. But he is still closing in, in that first sector. It was another couple of tenths, and in this middle sector is where all the tricky little corners are, especially this section here, as we mentioned. A bit wide though, actually, maybe just slightly over pushing, and then you've got to nail it over these curbs to not lose the time. And towards the hairpin he goes, as he does make the apex there. Nicely done, closes in a little bit more. We'll get the sector 2 times at the end of this straight, and then we'll see exactly where they are sitting. Simičić 2 tenths faster than Bok, and Magorgi about another half a second faster than that.
3.4 seconds covering the top 3 with 6 laps to go at the Singapore Grand Prix. A grandstand finale ahead of us in the 4th round of the Formula SimRacing World Championship for 2024. 4-time champion Jone Simičić sandwiched in between some newcomers, if you like. Yannick Bok in his 2nd full season in this championship. Ewan Magorgi in his 1st. Only 1 race win between them. Very few podiums as well. Just the 4 podiums between those 2 drivers as well. Jone Simičić can boast more of all of those just by himself. But the added experience helping him, of course. How is that going to help him in the final moments of this race? They've kind of plateaued at the high 34s here, 34.8 from the 2 of the top 2 now, as Magorgi put 1.2 seconds into both of them. If he continues at that rate, he'll be in the DRS range of Jone Simičić the next time they reach the detection point.
Magorgi personal best in the first sector. The speed is still there in the red race clutch machine as he chases down the Rafa and the Evo for this race win. I think it would be a lot easier if it was just 1 car, of course, to overtake. Easier, stating the obvious as such, but if it was a 1v1, we'll have to see. Whereas if you go back to the, of course, real life Singapore Grand Prix last year, similar situation. You had Carlos and Lando leading the way 1-2, and they were able to work together as such to hold off the Mercedes coming in behind. So is there going to be anything that Yannick can do, or does he want to keep Jone out of that DRS range as well? Remember, it's 0.7 seconds, and Jone has stabilised it and hasn't really got below 1 second.
No, he's been able to hold him at bay just about here, but the detection zone is not quite yet. It's off of turn 3, where Magorgi will get a benefit from traction as well, of course. Over the line from the 3 of them, 34.7s from the 2 ahead, but it's another 1.2 seconds gained for Ewan Magorgi, who will now be in the DRS, I'm sure of it, out of turn 3, and the race is on. Ewan Magorgi for Race Clutch looking for his 2nd race win in just 4 rounds so far in the 2024 season. He's surely not going to be able to get through on Simičić this time round. There goes the DRS, popping wide open. Simičić knows it as well. He will pull to the right hand side and holds a very tight line. That was very clever from Jone Simičić through turn 6 to hold such a tight line like that.
And just with the way that the simulation works as well, these kinks, and with the slipstream, it really does help if you try and get offline with that. The slipstream, I should say, is definitely less effective at a straight that's got these kinks in it, and that is certainly not helping Magorgi at this time. But Simičić himself is now within a second of Bok. They're all closing up with each other. They're in the reverse order of the speed that they have at this point in the race, and we still have 5 laps to go, including this one, so plenty of time for them to try and make the overtake. And Magorgi again, personal best in that first sector now with the DRS.
What an unbelievable finish we're going to get to this race. Out of turn 14 they go towards 16, which may have been an overtaking zone on another day, but we've not really seen it so far today. Is it going to come down to here on the last lap? That really would be something remarkable, as we get 4 laps to go now in the Singapore Grand Prix. Magorgi all over the curb that time around. Not sure his run on the front straight has done any favours there, although he's right in the slipstream, and he was so good through the first 3 corners last lap around as well. How much is that going to be effective now, as he's just in behind somebody else? He clearly is closing this time round. It was a purple first sector actually last time. Magorgi has got to start making moves quickly. He's not got all the time in the world here. Needs the exit off of turn 5, and again Simičić weaves to the right hand side. Going to use the energy smartly as well if he can do. Magorgi will close in. He will not get close enough. He has a look to the inside at turn 7, but it's not enough, and he will start to run out of laps.
He will, and with the amount of braking zones around here, you can actually regen quite a lot. So I would expect Simičić can save enough to basically use the push pass the whole length of that straight to try and defend. It's not like he's going to run out, because for all these braking zones here, you don't need to use the button on the power, so you're just regenning at this stage of the track. But then, of course, that's the same for Magorgi in behind. So he's also going to be able to use as much push to pass as he needs to try and make this move.
And he use it at this point in the circuit as well, down towards turn 14. Big stop, of course, down here. Bit of a shallower line from Simičić. The tyres beginning to slip a little bit for Magorgi now. He needed a better run than that through turn 14 to have a go when they get to 16, which is not quite as big of a braking zone, but it is a chance. Oh, he has a look. He just had a look there to Darren Magorgi. Puts off Yannick Simičić. Is this all playing into the hands of Yannick Bock, maybe, who's coming around the final corner? 1 second in front.
Oh, yes, it is. And conversely, it might actually be helping Yannick Simičić, but actually no, he's going to be out of the DRS range because he was getting close at one point, but he's lost time as he has to look in his mirrors and go slightly offline. If he had the DRS, it would help to defend, but it is getting very close to the course, 0.7, not 1 second as it would be in real life. Let's see once again.
Well, he's not in with a second anyway, so he's not close enough regardless. Here goes Magorgi again. He's at the similar distance all over again here on lap 60. Nearly slipped through the corner. Now he's got to go for it. He's a bit more aggressive that time, but he can't do it on lap 60 either. Really starting to run out of laps now with 2.5 to go. Yannick Bock is running away with this a little bit now. He's 1.2 seconds still in front of Yannick Simičić.
He might not be in enough to overtake there, but he's certainly close enough to overtake on the final lap or the outside here.
He's going for it at the Singapore sling, round the outside. That is special. Ewan Magorgi's through into second position. A special overtake at the Singapore Grand Prix that could give him his second ever World Championship victory. Ewan Magorgi, aggression personified, and he's into second.
How on earth has he made that move stick? That is remarkable. I don't think I've ever seen an overtake at that point of the track, but he's been able to do so, and that just shows you the grip that he's got as well, able to hold it on the outside, and now he needs to chase down Yannick Bock. It's 2 seconds, 2 laps to go.
He's going to have to do this on the last lap, isn't he? Because the penultimate lap's going to come too early for him. Bock is just going to push his maximum as well right now, just to try and put the time that he can into Magorgi behind, and he does put a tenth or so into him. But as soon as Magorgi got through by the final sector, he was back to gaining a few tenths again. If he can repeat that a couple of times, he might well be in DRS just at the right moment and get Yannick Bock to the end. But Yannick Simičić looking pretty resigned to the bottom step of the podium here this afternoon now.
Yeah, Yannick, he did his best, but at the right time he backed out of it. He could have fought it around the outside of the chicane, but that is really a one-line corner, and he did the safest thing, which was to hold that to third place, because look at the gap he's got behind to his teammate. No worries, he would definitely take that. Of course, a bit disappointing as he led the race for so long, but Bock managed to get ahead on strategy. And now Magorgi effectively has as well. With that 3-stop, he had the speed at the end. But now which one is going to work? Is the 2 versus 3 stop, both on medium tyres, but of course a lot older for the German at this point, and he's got a lap and a half to go.
And he's got something left in them as well, a personal best first sector that time around as well. So he's clearly left something behind here with 1 second's margin, but he is still losing at that little bit of time, especially in the middle sector. Half a second lost. And how's this for pressure, by the way? Ewan Magorgi bearing down on you on newer tyres with all the ambition in the world, trying to overtake you as you're trying to hang on for your first FSR World Championship win.
If he keeps him out of DRS, he's certainly got a really good opportunity in towards the final corner, and now it's just this sequence of 1, 2 and 3. If he can get that right and keep it out of 7 tenths, but it might not be enough, it's right on the limit.
He's right there as Ewan Magorgi. He might not be close enough by turn 7, but at least he will have the DRS. Down into turn 3 he goes. He's got the traction here on the final lap of the Singapore Grand Prix. Just slides a little bit as he slips out on the power there. Now into turn 5 they go. Needs a really good run through here. He will get the DRS and the letterbox open, but he's nowhere near close enough for a move down into turn 7. It's going to have to come elsewhere.
And he did it on an interesting place in Singapore Sing. Couple laps gone. Simičić, is he going to try that? Because Yannick probably doesn't know that. He probably doesn't know the move that was made and what might be coming just up here.
Here we go, out of turn 9. This is where it happens for Magorgi over Simičić. It's not going to happen to the Singapore Sling this time through turn 10. Bock hangs on again. Where are the zones now that he could really do this? Turn 13, maybe 14, might even be 16 on this last lap.
I think it's going to have to be into that final chicane unless he goes for a send into the hairpin. But Bock, he has good drive there. He's still got good life in these tyres.
He does, and he's going very quickly, nearly a personal best on that first sector all over again. But it's less about times, more about racetrack and track position here as they head towards the final chicane of the Singapore Grand Prix. Has Yannick Bock done enough here for his first FSR win? As he goes down to turn 16, Owen McCorgie can't do anything here. He's on the newer tyres. He's got the ambition to win for a second time. He's sliding out of the corner, but he can't do it. Yannick Bock is going to hang on in a classic to become a Formula SimRacing World Championship race winner for the very first time. He wins the Singapore Grand Prix by the barest of margins.
What a race between these drivers, all on completely different strategies. But Yannick, he managed by the skin of his teeth. He had a couple of tenths in hand. And coming in towards that final chicane at T16, if McCorgie was any closer, another couple of car lengths closer, he would have sent it like he tried one time on Yerne. But Yannick Bock put his car in the right place and had the tyre life to hold on with that two-stop strategy. And, of course, doing that double soft as well to make it work. Crazy stuff. Absolutely crazy stuff. And a crazy ending to a great race as well. People speak about Owen McCorgie's lack of experience in the World Championship, and of course they're right to. He's not been in here for very long either. But Yannick Bock has just won there on his 12th appearance in the series. And in his second full season, as Philip Pushka makes his way to the line, he might have to push his car over the line if he's not careful. But fortunately, it's quite close at the final corner, but it's uphill. Does he have enough momentum? Go on, Philip. His teammates won the race. Don't tell me Philip Pushka is just going to miss out. He might just get to the line and get a double points finish.
There you go. Don't know how he's managed that exactly, but he will pick up 14th place and a couple of points for his troubles as well. But what a fantastic race. Slow burner, of course, strategic as well, but well worth the full 62 laps, and Yannick Bock would certainly agree with that. He wins ahead of Owen McCorgie and four-time champion Jerne Simicic, who finishes third ahead of his teammate Michi Hoyer, and Manuel Biancalula now pushed down to second in the championship standings. Jonas Braksuk finishes sixth ahead of Matthew Williams, and Dennis Jordan, who does the best of those who have to recover from lap one trouble. Danny van der Nee and Petter Burlak round out the top 10. Outside of that was Stavros Mouzadis, Jukka Pekka-Laulu, Cosmo Patuto and Philip Pushka, who we saw eke over the line in the end. And a good end to the race in terms of retirements, but I'm afraid the next 7 drivers were all out very early on. Jan Kvankvist, who will lose big ground in the championship as a result of that. George Salatianis' search for points goes on, and as does Sergio Fletcher's. Sander Callas, Alex Siebel, Matthias Ster, and also the disqualified Stavros Mouzadis, already said that. Giordano Vigliano, unfortunately disqualified early on from that race. Well, I'm glad to say we're now joined by race winner Yannick Bock, who's taken his first ever World Championship Grand Prix victory here tonight. Congratulations, Yannick, on that one. How are you feeling after that really tense ending to the Singapore Grand Prix?
Well, thank you. I'm really exhausted. It was a tough race, and these guys had amazing pace, but I could have managed the tires today, and I'm very happy that I won.
The strategy was all over the place. We couldn't work out quite what was going on. What was your thinking going into the race, and did it change along the course of the 62 laps?
Well, I know I wanted to start on soft if I'm like in the top 3 or top 5, and then I had a good start, jumped one car, and then had a very good stint in first stint and could save the tires. And then like luckily the overcut worked in the first in the first pit stop window, and then I had a very good second stint like in clean air, and then managed to hold on in the end.
I mean, it's 3 podiums in a row for you now and your debut win as well. Just what has it been about the 2024 setup, if you like, in terms of the FSR World Championship that has seen you so strong and meant that you've been on the podium now 3 times more occasions than you ever have been in the past? What is it about 2024 that you've been so successful with?
I think it's like the preparation within the team, where we have a very good communication inside our team and a very good like workflow, and this was like missing in the last year for me. And now I'm very happy with my like all team members, and we're having fun and good preparation every race, so that pays off for me.
It certainly does. Congratulations on your first win, Yannick, and thanks for chatting to us as well. Thanks very much, Yannick Bock there, the race winner tonight from the Singapore Grand Prix. Joining us hopefully a little bit later on as well, hopefully Owen McCorgie and Jerne Simoncic, who also joined him on the podium. Owen joins us now from second. Welcome in as well. Good to have you with us, Owen. So close to your second World Championship race victory, your first top 5 that's not been a race win, and your first podium that hasn't been a race win as well. But how are you feeling after that race? It's a good finish second, but in the circumstances, are you disappointed you didn't win?
It's very, very mixed emotions. Yannick drove really well in that last stint, and Jerne too. I didn't think I was going to be able to get Jerne as I got onto the back of him, and then it took me a few laps, and the move around the outside was pretty scary, but I'm glad I got it done.
Was that a pre-planned one? Because it was certainly a spectacular move to see, and especially around the outside of anybody, but never mind Jerne Simoncic. Through turn 10 is something you very rarely see. Was it planned? Was it off the cuff? What happened?
I think Jerne made a little mistake, and I was running low on battery, and I thought, there's no way I'm going to be able to get him on the straight, so I have to just send it somewhere, and I got it around the outside. I thought, maybe I wasn't going to get left too much room, but it was really, really nice racing, and I'm glad I squeezed through the little gap.
Yeah, you did just about make it through into second place as well. Congratulations on that, Owen, and thanks for chatting to us as well.
Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Owen McGorgy there, second place here today. Just ahead of Jerne Simoncic, who also joins us now. Welcome in, Jerne. Third place for you today as well. A very interesting race to watch in terms of figuring out what was going on with the strategy and who was actually going to win in the end. How confident were you as you came out the pit lane for the final time that you were going to be the race winner today? What were you hoping for once you had made your final stop?
I was knowing that there is maybe 10% chance I can strike Yannick in the last lap if his mediums die, but I knew that it was all over. I don't know, I need to reevaluate the strategy. I think the strategy was good, like I did what I thought would work the best. It actually worked quite well, apart from forgetting to cover from Yannick's overcut, but I did really not have battery remaining to do that, so great job by him to spot that after first stop to keep pushing on in the first stint in the last lap. But yeah, I don't know, Owen was just so quick also.
Yeah, it was a very impressive drive from all three of you, to be honest, in terms of speed as well. What about the overtake from Owen on yourself? He said that he thought you maybe had a bit of a mistake preceding that. Was that the case, or was it just a good overtake around the outside?
No, like in the corner before I went to like a coffee shop on the right side of the track, like I don't know, the apex just was 1 kilometer away. I don't know what happened. Well, my mistake, and I still should have dumped the remainder of the battery that I had, but then I thought, oh well, maybe around the outside it's not possible, but he made it, and then as we were side by side, I just knew that there is no way I can survive or like keep the position, so I just thought, well, let him go so he catches Yannick and maybe something happens for P1. But it was all a little bit too late because, well, he needed one more lap to get Yannick, so not ideal.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's a second podium in a row for yourself, so congratulations on that, and thanks very much for coming to chat to us as well.
Thank you, it was a nice race, enjoyable.
It certainly was. Jerne Simoncic, their third place in tonight's Singapore Grand Prix, and that will just about do it for us here tonight, Cam. 62 laps, but you will have been wishing that it was an extra one again from the added one that we have with the shortened racetrack here this time around. A wonderful Singapore Grand Prix, a lot closer than we've had in previous seasons as well, but Yannick Bock, the debut race winner this time around.
Yeah, very happy for Yannick. Of course, the leading driver in the championship to not have a win before this, and certainly showing the speed that he's got. So is he going to be the contender now? The championship's going to be completely wide open. Denahan not scoring, Grenkvist not scoring. It's going to be an interesting one as we get later in the season.
Certainly will. Yannick Bock will be the championship leader, as you say, as he was tied championship leader, but now is a race winner as well. Owen McGorgy will, I think, have moved up to second place, just ahead of Manuel Biancalula. Yoni Simcic will be up there as well. We'll have the full rundown on the standings for you next time out when we visit you again on the 28th of April. That will be the British Grand Prix for round 5 of the World Championship. Make sure you join us also for the Academy and Pro races that will precede this one in the afternoon. A big thanks to everyone who's been tuned in across the evening, though. It's been great to have your company for an enthralling Singapore Grand Prix, and hopefully it's not 5 years again until we visit this venue, but we'll wait and see on that, of course. 2 weeks' time until we'll be back again, so I hope that you'll join us again here on the Formula Sim Racing World Championship. For this round, I've been Ewan Leary alongside Cam Rodger, and until we see you in a fortnight, it's goodbye for now.
Hello, I'm Jack Nichols, and welcome to Home.
Who's going to break A6 world title?
For Mike Gosby. Oh, he's done it. And look at these two go. He's going to do it. His first victory.
The World Championship is done.
What a race it's been.